Ooh, hey, there we go. I forgot to unmute my mic. There we go. I hopefully everybody can hear me. Just gonna double check while people. I got on this like a complete streaming noob right here. I'm on like a low latency thingamajiggy. So hopefully, yes, fantastic. Woohoo! All right. Well, let's get right into it. We've got Sergeant here. We've got Ryan here as well. Season 3. We are waiting. We are hoping for to see what Mapper. Well, who knows what studio is going to be now, but hopefully we'll see what they're cooking. Um, yeah. So my idea for the stream was simply that I would go and review or use like a video to kind of chat about a certain topic. And as you can see, it is one of these videos on screen. First things first. Uh, so yeah, I remember like maybe so it seems like 11 months ago, but I remember a while ago seeing a video posted on r/Vinland Saga, and it being like a super long video on like why the manga's gone bad, and I think to myself, all right, so good old let's see what they have to say, right? And I remember this video being pretty good actually, pretty interesting, a good consolidation of a lot of arguments about why the Baltic Sea War didn't live up to expectations, or why Vinland Saga fell off, yada yada yada. And so, you know, I reached out to Will Tin today, saying, "Hey, do you mind if I react to this on stream?" And they said, "Yes, that's absolutely fine. I just want to make it really, really clear that don't get mad at Will for saying stuff bad. Don't go and because I'm like streaming. I'm conscious because I've got more subscribers or whatever, maybe a bigger viewer base or whatever. Look, the guy's making YouTube videos, and I respect that massively. Anybody that's making content within the saga, I respect massively. So just be nice to him, be chilled with him. And I think it should be just kind of fun. I just want to try a stream because I saw Mir do it, and they did it pretty good. So I'm doing it as well. So yeah, let's get into it. I think I said everything I needed to say. First things first, Mr. Wilton. Can I show this thumbnail? Is amazing. I love it. I love it so much. You got Asker Chad going to mainly it's clown Ymir, phenomenal, great memeage, and I think it sets up the video well. It's got bug eyes in the corner there. It's got like some particular moments, and I think what, it's got every single little detail. Once you've watched the video, he's slotted in little bits and bobs everywhere. I mean, I've not watched this Attack on Titan one. That sounds like a juicy one, but I'll leave that for Ari or Carl to get mad at instead. So here we go. Let's try.
Hello.
So, before we even start, first things first, I want to give Will his due. So when I asked him here, as you can see, oh look, there's Sergeant there. He did say that mic quality isn't great, and I'm not sure it's react worthy, but if you want to do it, it would be fun for me. So that is, I'm not just reacting for the sake of reacting. I'm not just here to dunk on people, make people feel bad. Not at all. I'm here to have some fun. Yeah, I this shouldn't be toxic. We've got like 6 people watching me right now. Okay, maximum. I just don't parade. And if anything, please, I've got a link to the video in the description and a link to his channel in the description. So please give him a look out. Because as I said, if you're making a scripted video that's over an hour long, massive respect. That's a ton of work. And you may be like, the mic isn't as good or the editing isn't super flashy. Hey, put respect on it. You've made something. So yeah, let's have some fun. And let me know if the framing, I've got it in theater mode here. Actually, maybe let's make my face smaller. Ooh. I'm probably going to be sitting back from this. So I'm going to try this and go to this. Ooh, now that is crazy right now. All right, and let me know about the audio as well, if it's too loud or not loud enough. So yeah.
Do you guys hate it when the thing you love starts throwing up in your mouth? Shit, I think I started out too strong.
I forgot how disgusting
My
that
bad.
scene was from Chainsaw Man. This is animation is top tier.
Okay.
What can I say?
Vinland Saga was beyond great for 99 champ.
Okay, and also another thing, no disrespect, but I'm gonna put on 1.5 just because I watch everything on 2 times speed. So, and this is a long video, so I'm trying to go to bed soon. It's a bit late for me. So, yeah.
Until Thorfinn left the farm. It had everything going for it. For me, objectively, greatest character of all time.
Use my favorite words here,
In
objectively.
my opinion.
In my opinion, even better.
I'm telling you all this is because I'm playing both sides so that I always come out on top.
To 2 characters fighting to rival his top spot. This guy a little more. To them, so many other.
Oh, we're Canute haters over here. You have to remember that. Canute, B tier character, absolute garbage.
Greatly
Unbelievable
and
that you would ever say
efficiently
that.
written characters, all having different philosophies, motivations, and standings in this unforgiving world. Every character treated with such precision and respect in this world built on war and slavery, from albeit exaggerated but thought-out battles to genius, intense political maneuvers.
I haven't moved this one. Yeah, look
To
at
then
this. See, look, Will, I'd say you've got me here because you got this nice
Low
pace
characters.
where I'm like 1.5 and it sounds good to me.
Drama on a farm. Vinland Saga moved and changed so much, but it always feeling natural and logical. But then the Eastern Expedition / Baltic Sea War Arc happened, giving me so much whiplash. I'm now looking like King Swen.
That's a good joke. I like that one. I would say nothing to disagree with here so far, apart from that last little bit. You know, absolute the greatest thing of all time, Vinland Saga. Nothing can touch it. I do like the perceptiveness on efficient characters feeling like they have purpose. I do think that is the idea. And having different philosophies, we'll have to see. I do agree with that. I would still think those 2 things apply to Baltic Sea War. We'll have to see how he disagrees. Until Baltic Sea War, then it fell off totally.
This video is just going to go through this arc, not the resulting one. Not because the next one is better, but just because this one is all I need to prove this manga is done for. So let's look at how a masterpiece could take a masterpiece on everything that it once was. And let's dive
Masterpiece.
straight into
Fantastic.
this. So, Thorfinn returns home to Iceland, where he greets his older sister, who he hasn't seen in all these years, and gets a foot to the face. Not a great start for my guy, but I can't blame Yova, because she assumed Thorfinn was a con artist trying to con Leif.
Based.
Then he goes to his mother, and after the absolute trollage from Bug Eyes, it was a very heartwarming scene. We've been waiting for Thorfinn's reunion with his mother for 100 chapters, and it's very nice to see. I like it. Then they enter
there we
Thorfinn's
go.
past home, and Yova.
We can wrap it up there. He likes it. There you go. Fantastic. I say one thing I did mention to Will, Mr. Tin, is that I thought the video was funny. I remember finding this video quite funny. So that's always one thing. If you're criticizing something, have a bit of fun with it. You know, like masterpiece to masterpiece. I haven't heard that before. I'm sure it's not original, but hey, it's well delivered. I can't
It's
deny
now
it.
she finds out that this Thorfinn is the same Thorfinn as her 6-year-old brother from all that time ago. She must wonder how he is even still alive, and
True.
what torment he has gone through from seeing his father's
Absolutely.
death to then be surviving at whatever.
I
means
wonder what
necessary
she's gonna do.
as a young child in this cruel and dangerous world. A
Yeah,
1 6-year-old boy
unbelievable.
separated from everything he loves and knows, and yet here he is, after all this, standing in front of her, arms out, with an expression of pure joy at a proper reunion with his long-lost sister. So she does this. Now what the fuck? Why?
I
Is
know.
it supposed to be that she's
Totally.
annoyed he didn't come back until now? You selfish cunt. He was fucking 6 years old. Went through hell and back, and this is your response. I think I know the real reason this dog shit scene exists, and it's for supposed comedy. What's the joke here?
Unbelievable.
Man. Funniest shit
Co-
I've ever seen. We later find out Thorfinn was knocked out for like half a day by this, which is just unreal. What are we doing here? How did this happen straight after the end of one of the best arcs in anything ever? Thorfinn went from tanking 100 punches from a Goliath,
True.
all for him to be sucker punched by his fucking sister.
This sister is the daughter of Thor's, and with a bit of Thorkel blood in her. Unbelievable. I agree with him here. Unbelievable. Daddy flashbang. That's unbelievable. Because if you know me, I also don't like this scene. This is Ilva. I don't dislike it though because I'm like, oh, how dare you disrespect Thorfinn like that? It's because I was hoping for something interesting with Ilva, aside from just comedy. I will say, look, comedy is comedy. If I was to give a defense, I would say Hill would actually fulfill the role what I think Ilva would later on. We do know Yukimura wanted a bit more comedy later on, just to give some levity. I can't remember the exact interview reason why. I have a feeling it's because maybe it's to do with like he thought his sons might be reading it at this point or something. I don't want to spread misinformation on that. But yeah, Thorkel is best girl. But comedy is comedy. Comedy is going to be funny. As they say, comedy is subjective, but many things are subjective. To be fair, I think I probably look like I've got punched by Ilva at this point. That's why you only see this side of the face, you know? This is what I'm doing. But yeah, I think, I don't have much more to say here. But yeah, you could have done way more with Ilva. I don't think the point with like, oh, Ilva punches Thorfinn here, and he gets knocked out despite taking 100 punches. First things first. Okay, if we're logically thinking this out, Thorfinn's not expecting it, right? You know, what is his name? Drott, the bear killer, the guy who did the 100 punches. He only got Thorfinn once, right, without him noticing, right? And that's when he almost knocked Thorfinn out. Now you've got someone with literal genetic strength of Thor's and getting it complete when he's completely not noticing it. Like Thorfinn's whole technique to take the punches is to go with the punches, right? So Thorfinn wasn't noticing. That's the gag if you want it logically, but at the end of the day, hey, it's a joke, it's a joke. I didn't like it when I first read it, but I've softened it over time. So, Drott, yes, thank you. There you go.
My boy doesn't deserve this. Nobody deserves this. And Yova needs to be locked up. Man, from a small time we got with Yova before this, I actually really liked her character. The way she dealt with the trauma of losing her father and brother was so cool and unique. She was trying to push the sadness and possible regret to the back of her mind.
Oh, so
true. Around the village day and night, but to finally break down in the arms of her mother. She was so realistic and likable.
Top tier chapter.
This is a damn shame.
Oh, agreed.
No one calls Yova out on her bullshit. They act like this is just a regular meme that happens. I'm especially frustrated with Einar being so quiet. He should have his brothers back after all they've been through.
That's not wrong. Not wrong.
Man, I sure hope supposed comedy like this doesn't completely ruin what Vinland Saga once was. So then Halfdan and Siggy make their appearance and talk.
Hey, we've talked enough about it, but you know what? Funny is funny. If you don't find it, that's okay. Could have done more with Ilva. They do have the haircut scene afterwards, which I do think is nice. But hey, let's go on to Sigurd and Halfdan. Let's see.
About a bird or something.
If I remember.
So later on, Thorfinn tells everyone about everything that had happened to him throughout the years and ends on saying about his mission to build a land of peace in Vinland. And Helga tells him it's his life's purpose, which I find strange. It's not a hard choice to decide his life's purpose. That's for Thorfinn to decide. Like, he's just been back for one day. What? Why did Thorfinn have to be the one to build this land of peace? Thor's didn't. He just started a family with Helga, away from all the war. It just feels like needless pressure on Thorfinn. What if he fails? What if he decides he just wants to quit and start a family like Thor's did? Now, it's one thing to support your son's quest for good, but I don't see why Helga, of all people, is implying this is the only thing Thorfinn is allowed to do. What else is a life's purpose? Very weird dialogue, but moving on, at least...
So, okay, from my memory of this, I could read into this a little bit. I think this is very nitpicky, but I think what Ilva's doing in this scene is not saying, hey, Thorfinn, you need to do this. And Thorfinn's like, huh? Oh, yeah, I guess I'll do it then. No, Thorfinn's like, I'm doing this. And Ilva's like, yes, I will. I'm giving you my my blessing to go do this. This is your life's purpose. She feels compelled by Thorfinn's story and Thorfinn's own conviction to then tell him to go do that himself. I don't think she's like, oh, Thorfinn, if you ever dared just to stay in Iceland, yeah, I'd kick you out of it and I'd be disappointed with you. I don't think that's what she is implying here. At least that's in my opinion. But yeah, did I say Helga? Did I say Ilva? Ilva's the worst. Wow, get her out of my mouth.
Says he's going to need some gold.
Did I say Hild? Who knows what I said?
But to be careful, he is a bad one. Now we see Gudrid is attempted to hide away on the gang ship, which just arrived, and Siggy goes to find her. She shows herself and starts arguing with Leif about letting her on the ship. Leif rants about how a sailor can't be a woman, which will come up more later. Okay, now a lot happens all at once. Gudrid cuts her hair to be done with being a woman. Yeah. And then hears people shouting for her, so she runs to the ship and slips and hits her head, knocking her out. Siggy's gang seem to be pretty close, and Siggy notices her just after she gets knocked out. Then they think to grab her and take her on the boat. As Siggy also sees the cut hair, he assumes it's a kidnapping, and so he goes to attack them with his chain. This is simply all just bullshit drama based on a stupid series of coincidences and contrivances. So, for this drama to happen, Gudrid has to first cut her hair, leave it on the dock, then had to hear the shouting whilst the gang either didn't hear it, or not realize it might be to do with her. Keep in mind, Siggy and the gang shouting were pretty close this whole time. Then most importantly, she has to slip and hit her head so hard that she becomes unconscious, so she can't explain the situation, and Siggy has to notice her at the worst possible time, just after she fell over. Now Thorfinn and gang, instead of calling for help, they have to do the suspicious move of putting her in the ship. So now for the drama. It's Thorfinn vs Siggy, and Thorfinn's blocking the chain, which is something like a dagger on his tip, before I believe is his cloak, but I may be wrong. Thorfinn ends up getting pierced through it on his arm, and Einar has the genius plan of just being a meat shield. And this is a shit I hate. Siggy is seemingly just about to stab Einar with the end of the hook, which honestly could leave even fatal damage, but Halfdan just happens to show up and tell him to stop at the very last moment. This shit happens so often in media, and it's so frustrating. I'm just meant to live with the fact that Einar might very well be dead over the most ridiculous set of coincidences, all leading to such a cheap and pointless drama, if something incredibly lucky didn't happen. I hate...
Alright, so... So first things first, with the point of saying things are contrived, all media is contrived. The issue is whether it feels contrived or not, because contrived by nature means that something feels artificial. And so when something feels yeah, I can't like say, hey, if you feel this in that moment that you see the hand of the author, if it makes it clear that like something's happening. But then I would also say contrived isn't always bad, because like say if I notice a theme come up again, I'm like, oh, that's cool, I love it when they do this trope, or I love it when this is adding upon this twist or whatever. You like, oh, that's a twist, like you are seeing the hand behind the author, but it's not always behind the media, but that's not always a bad thing, or a negative thing. I would say here, like, the reason why I understand the stakes are taken away, I think the point Yukimura is trying to do is like saying, hey, we've gone from a very heavy climactic finish to, and I'm trying to set up for the beginning of my next arc, and things get reduced in seriousness. Like if you think to the beginning of what is it? Farmland. For the Farmland arc, you see Iron on the ship, right? Iron will see someone's ill, and then these guys just go hup hup and throw a slave off like it's no big deal. And Iron is kind of that everyman where you're like, oh, terrified, but it's also kind of funny in a kind of dark humor way. Later on, you have stuff made less comedic, so it'd be interesting to see what they do for season 3. But Ina's like stolen, Ina's been like groped by a guy and it's kind of portrayed comedically. Is that good? Is that not good? He's running away with like a sausage in his mouth and it's very cartoony. While maybe Will's just read the manga, watched the anime and not read the manga, which the anime kind of toned down some of that comedy. So maybe that isn't as good. So yeah. Okay, so here is the dialogue in the mind with Hilga. At least the part where she says it is his life purpose. Yeah. I have to reread. I mean, I do feel like some of this will be nitpicky. The one scene of the Aina being Shrek. Yeah, exactly. Like there's a lot of stuff early on in Farmlands where there are funny bits. Now here, I think his point is also like, oh my word, Aina could almost die here, and like that's no small thing. I think generally, we've seen Thorfinn deal with so many things like this, and it's just kind of like a cool scene, but also kind of shows to undermine Siggy straight away. Is here to say that he gets frustrated over something so like a miscommunication. It's contrived that there's this miscommunication, but I think it's another way to just show that Sigurd is like very immature. That Gudrun is also in many ways immature, but like it's setting up these themes, of course, and it's like, oh well. This, then this, then this, and of course she'd have to knock her head for this then happen. And okay, if that didn't happen, then Sigurd wouldn't have attacked them. That's okay, right? But Halfdan's coming down anyway, so I don't think it really affects the story if it's contrived or not. Gudrun's going to be there or not there. I guess the idea is that Gudrun would have to stow away and not being seen, but I think Sigurd's seen her. I can't remember the exact details. I'm sure we'll go on. But like overall, this being like a contrived point, like doesn't do much for the plot, doesn't really change anything. At the end of the day, Yukimura could have written many other ways for to get the same reaction, but he decided to go with a slightly more comedic route, but also setting up the fact that because it's comedic, you don't take Sigurd as seriously, and you'll notice that later on when Halfdan's in the room, it's not nearly as comedic, and it kind of sets the tone for Sigurd for this arc. I do think maybe some of the comedy later with Sigurd could be over the top, particularly with the Barrow stuff. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Sigurd glow up is real, super real. Yeah, exactly. I think it would be actually quite cool to do like a Halfdan proper look at. I think he's one of those characters that no one really pays much attention to, but I'd be interested to see exactly what he offers.
Also about the fight, it's fine for Siggy to assume it's likely a kidnapping, and I know he's presented as rash. But him going ham with a chain when they are clearly unarmed is just too much, especially if you want me to emphasize with the men. Maybe give them a threat first,
I don't think you're really meant to emphasize with them. Empathize with them.
To hand back Gudrid or else, and then look to question them. Also, I think Einar should be smarter than just body blocking Thorfinn and letting himself get hit. Maybe he could run straight to Siggy to close the distance of his chain and try to fight him up close. He should be way smarter and less suicidal.
Well, as we've seen, like, Einar is not a warrior. He doesn't have any experience. I think this makes perfect sense for Einar to be a very emotional person. Now, he does have reason, but we do see him succumb to emotion most of the time. And this is one of those situations. This is also the setup with Hild later. Like, Einar, he's most worried about Thorfinn. But, yeah, so.
Okay, so Halfdan pulls up, Everyone finds
Oh
out
my word, what a great face. I haven't seen. Oh, hold
close.
up.
He should be way smarter and less suicidal. Okay, so
What a pog champ from our boy Siki.
Halfdan pulls up.
Yeah.
Everyone finds out that Gudrid is the bride of the wedding with Siggy. Halfdan finds out he's talking to Thorfinn, son of Thor's, and invites him to his home. Skip a bit, and now is where the story of Vinland Saga meets a breaking point, where there is some irreversible damage to the characters and plot. So the gang is at Halfdan's place, and they tell Halfdan about their
Spicy. I feel like this is nitpicking to me. I don't even think about that when reading this kind of stuff when I'm reading. Yeah, that's totally fine. I think I got the impression of this as well. Like, I think there are some other more substantial points later on, but I think these, for Will at least, I would presume that he just experienced these, and these are like a build up, and going back and reading through, it's like, yeah, this is where this didn't sit right with me, this didn't sit right, this didn't sit right with me. I'll be interested to see if he did just watch the anime, and then from there, I think season 2 is done by now. Yeah, it was done in this time last year, or June last year, also July last year. So actually, would it be August? Anyway, it was summer. So maybe he went straight into it, and the manga feels a bit different, and so there's a tonal whiplash from going to anime to manga, maybe as well. The anime definitely feels like it takes itself more seriously because of the music and the swelling and all this stuff. So we'll see.
Vinland plan. They want to gather over 100 volunteers and ships to carry them along with supplies. Halfdan asks them how they would repay them if they fail, and then brings up something huge. That Leif's brother attempted to colonize Vinland, but he failed. He failed because they warred with the natives and lost. This new knowledge should be absolutely devastating to Thorfinn and Einar, and should have the potential to flip the entire story on its head. Okay, why do I think this? Well, Thorfinn and Einar did not know that Vinland had any natives, and actually were under the impression that they didn't.
Maybe Thorfinn, you could say Thorfinn forgot. Now, Leif definitely brought up that there were natives that he met, the Skrelling, I think it's called at the time. So Thorfinn definitely knew that there was people there. Whether or not Thorfinn still remembers it, I think that's arguable. So I'll give Will that point.
Back in chapter 83, in Farmland, Thorfinn and Einar were talking about a place which needed no swords. And Einar pretty much said, it's impossible, because wherever you go, war will find you, and you would need to defend yourself.
Oh, man, Yukimura is setting the seeds, shall we
This
say.
is where a wave of nostalgia washes over Thorfinn, and he remembers about Vinland. He says Leif told him about it, that there's a rich, vast land beyond the Great Western Sea, a land that's entirely untouched. The entire dream of Vinland hinged on the fact that it was unpopulated.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I will take it there. So Thorfinn is, you can definitely interpret that as like untouched by humans. Now that is still mostly true. Vinland is like very sparsely populated, even historically speaking, and also in this story. But fair point. Thorfinn doesn't remember
so
this.
knowing this, how did Thorfinn and Einar react to this news? Of not only Vinland already having natives, but also Leif's brothers group having failed to colonize Vinland, from having many die in a war with the natives. Well, initially, what would you call these faces? Slightly surprised? Thorfinn asked Leif if it's
That's pretty surprised, okay? Not slightly surprised, pretty surprised. I'm going to get a semantic argument over that, Mr. Tin. But yeah, no fair.
true, and Leif says it is true, with a caveat that his brother was the one who shot first, and that he is confident that if Thorfinn leaves the settlement, things won't turn out like they did with his brother. And that's all, yes. Thorfinn and Einar have no more fucking reaction. This was it, followed by them completely stone-faced 20 seconds later. Einar's dream for Arnheid just got potentially obliterated, and yet he doesn't make a single comment now
Hello,
or
Iko.
ever. And Thorfinn's only comment was asking if it was true. This barrier in their Vinland plan might just be made of obsidian. Surely the first thing they should think of is why wouldn't the natives be just as violent as the Vikings? Why wouldn't they have wars and slavery? I'm no expert on this, but apparently they fucking did. I do think it would be fine for them to go and try the Vinland plan, absolutely. But they should instantly realize, like they had in Farmland, that where there are people, there's going to be some war. Also, how long were you going to wait to tell them, Leif, about how their dream to start a new country wasn't new at all? Were you going to keep this hidden this whole time? To fulfill your selfish desires of settling Vinland? Huh? Okay, next, Thorfinn doesn't know.
All right, so I actually think, I haven't done a lot of thinking about this. I do remember this point actually now, that because I have watched this video before, but that was ages ago. One thing I would say, I think, I would say that it is pretty, it is probably overlooked that this is quite a major thing that Leif's brother happened there. Now, Leif did clarify that they shot first, and from knowing Thorfinn, maybe it's not made super clear in the Farmland, but Thorfinn is definitely not trying to be provocative. I think Thorfinn could have got over there. Perhaps like with Einar and Thorfinn, I think there could have been more discussion. I don't think it's going to break the whole thing wide open, but I do think fair enough. Like maybe it would have warranted more discussion. At the same time, they're in a room with Halfdan. If you want to totally logically plot this out, they're in a room with Halfdan at the time. They're really trying to get his. They're kind of already in this already. I would expect there be like more reaction afterwards as they go out, and then they have to chat to Leaf about it and be like, hold on, well, what are you saying? Like, why didn't you mention this to us at all, or so on and so forth. I think it's an interesting point. I don't think it would have stopped them going over, but I could see, yeah, there definitely being issues that, okay, could you explain it a bit more, giving us a bit more context for that? And that's fine. I think that's fair. Season 3, gonna save us. Come on, anime original content right here. There you go.
Aren't humans. Wait, let me explain. So Halfdan tells everyone but the leader Thorfinn to leave, so it's just him, one-on-one.
Oh, hold up.
Figgy.
Let's go back.
Let me explain. So Halfdan tells everyone Thorfinn doesn't know that bards aren't humans. Wait, let me explain.
Hold up. I'm confused.
Okay, next, Thorfinn doesn't know that bards aren't humans.
Yeah.
Wait, let me explain. So Halfdan tells everyone but the leader Thorfinn to leave, so it's just him, one-on-one. Figgy assumedly captured the same bird Halfdan was eyeing earlier and gave it to him as a gift. But Thorfinn sees this tarn in the cage and asks to let it out. Halfdan says if you let it out, it will suffer a miserable death of freezing and starvation. Oh, so that's the end of that, right? Bird in cage or bird dying horribly. Easy choice for me. So Thorfinn wants the bird to choose. Excuse me? What in the flying fuck? It's a fucking bird. A bird. It doesn't know the ramifications of anything. It can't speak your language, Thorfinn. It doesn't know what the fuck is going on. Okay. How does Thorfinn let the bird choose? By letting it out of its cage and putting food next to it. If it eats the food, then it wants to stay. And if it leaves the food, then it would rather die a horrible death, apparently. So the bird flies away, because of its bird-like qualities, which is also Halfdan's son's gift leaving. Wasn't Thorfinn meant to get on his good side? Oh well. I don't really know what else to say about it. It's a bird. Thorfinn, who is meant to fight needless suffering, is cursing this bird to suffer horribly. Halfdan then says he isn't seeing eye to eye with him. Yeah, no shit. Thorfinn thinks he may have upset him. Well, yeah. Later, Thorfinn reveals some...
Okay, I do remember this from previously. I'm not sure if maybe Will didn't see this. I don't want to be like condescending, but this is clearly an allegory for Gudrid. She is the fetid turn. It's the volume cover for book 8. Probably, I think is it volume 15 or 16? I can't remember. But yeah, I think it's a. I think it was also making the assumption that animals don't have free will or have a choice or have autonomy. I personally think it makes sense that Thorfinn would says it's up for the bird to choose whether or not it flies away or not, and Thorfinn just being, it's a whole allegory for Gudrid and how you shouldn't take away choice from them, so on and so forth. I think that's the main point, but I feel like I've forgotten something key about his point. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to actually go back a little bit, and I'm going to double 2 times speed this bad boy.
Freezing and starvation. Oh, so that's the end of that, right? Bird in cage or bird dying horribly. Easy choice for me. So Thorfinn wants the bird to choose. Excuse me? What in the flying fuck? It's a fucking bird. A bird. It doesn't know the ramifications of anything. It can't speak your language, Thorfinn. It doesn't know what the fuck is going on. Okay. How does Thorfinn let the bird choose? By letting it out of its cage and putting food next to it. If it eats the food, then it wants to stay. And if it leaves the food, then it would rather die a horrible death, apparently. So the bird flies away, because of its bird-like qualities, which is also Halfdan's son's gift leaving. Wasn't Thorfinn meant to get on his good side? Oh well.
That's an interesting point about Halfdan. But I think also what Will's making the point is like, obviously, if you want the best thing for the bird to make it live as long, you make it stay home. You make it eat the food that you want to. But that's you controlling it. And Thorfinn's different perspective. It's like, hey, let the bird choose what it wants to do, and see the ramifications of its choice. That's fine. It's not there. It's about freedom or, trying to be overprotective, I presume. Now, it's interesting that Halfdan is just like, yeah, that's my son's gift. I don't care about that, right? That's a very Halfdan thing. Like, the bird means nothing to him, right? And so instead he's testing Thorfinn. Halfdan hasn't had Sigurd prove himself to him yet. Sigurd is not a man to Halfdan. Halfdan is a very interesting dynamic. I mean, this is the whole point of the last point of the arc, right? Where Sigurd doesn't and Halfdan also isn't as he seems, right? But like this bird is just a bird. It was given to him, like, and he kind of sees a different use for it. He's pretty blunt like that. So,
I don't really know what else to say about it. It's a bird. Thorfinn, who is meant to fight needless suffering, is cursing this bird to suffer horribly. Halfdan then says he isn't seeing eye to eye with him.
Cursing this bird to suffer horribly. that's because of we assume that Halfdan's assessment is correct. Yeah, Halfdan isn't an infallible character of like his perch. You may be like, oh no, this against all odds. There's no way that it would have. And Thorfinn's like, well, I'm gonna bet on that like 10% chance that it does survive and has a good life and prefer itself outside the cage. You know, because take this and put it onto Gudrid. You're like, oh, well, women don't enjoy sailing because of whatever reason. We have all these reasons of what we expect to happen or not to happen, and Thorfinn's like, let's see what they think for themselves. That's the point.
Thorfinn thinks he may have upset him. Well, yeah. Later, Thorfinn reveals some narwhal horns the Halfdan gave him, and Leif reveals that they actually are worth a lot of money, but it's tricky to get. So it's a challenge from Halfdan to get the money from them. Leif explains that the narwhal horns can be sold as unicorn horns in Greece. They can be sold for a very high price and are known for healing illness. Now, Thorfinn pretty much realizes that it's just a scam, and I do kind of wonder if it's in his character to go along with it, especially how they are meant for medical use. Like, it would feel weird to me if he's selling this fake cure to someone who's saying his mother has cancer, and I need to spend all my wealth to cure it, you know? Anyway, they don't give a shit, because it's apparently worth his weight.
My mother has diabetes, and you give it to them, and you're like, yeah, it's going to work. I don't think that's quite how it works. I think,
Gold. And then Leif says something to bear in mind for later. He says that there are pirates at sea and beasts on land, and there's no guarantee of survival. Later, Leif tells Einar and Bugeyes that Thorfinn is a good man, and so can reason with the inhabitants of Vinland. And Einar's just happy with his logic.
So I think here, where it's like a scam, it's like none of them know if it works or not. Like I think, like both of them are just told and like, hey, it doesn't seem to do anything. People think it's unicorn, but I mean, look, if you saw a narwhal at that time in real life, you'd be like, oh my word, that's crazy.
So someone who's saying his mother has cancer, and I need to spend all my wealth to cure it, you know? Anyway, they don't give a shit because it's apparently worth his weight in gold. And then Leif says something to bear in mind for later. He says that there are pirates at sea and beasts on land, and there's no guarantee of survival. Later, Leif tells Einar.
I will give Will that. Hey, look, it's you know, you could say it's slightly out of Thorfinn's character to, you know, go along with it so easily. I do think you can make the point that, you know, like the comedy use here does undermine some of the characterization, but I don't think it's character breaking or anything like that. You know, but yeah, it's more nitpicky. Yes.
Like that Thorfinn is a good man, and so can reason with the inhabitants of Vinland. And Einar's just happy with his logic and is smiling.
It's a good man. Yes. Because I think Einar would be happy to go along with it because he just saw him talk down Canute. I know they like knew each other beforehand, but if you manage to talk down the king of Denmark, I think that's pretty impressive. Thorfinn has shown before how he is able to negotiate in interesting manners to outsmart one of the smartest people. Yeah, Thorfinn did make it work for the first couple of years. I'm not sure what you're talking about exactly, but yeah.
I know. In farmland, he was always questioning Thorfinn's philosophy and possibility of Vinland working. He was the more rational one. So why does it feel like he lost?
Now, to be fair to Will, this is 11 months ago. This is not up to date with the manga. So, yeah. So, did make it for the first couple of years in Vinland. Yeah, totally.
For his character.
Yeah, I guess it is a assumption. But I think what Leif may have... actually, no, Leif didn't know Thor's beforehand. But I think he can see Thor's like qualities. Helga can see Thor's like qualities. Both of them have massive respect for Thor's, but also recognize that Leif was there when he saw Canute left and he's heard about his negotiation skills. So it's like, okay, well, he can talk down Canute, he can talk down everybody else. So I think that's...
Now Gudrid asks for a test to show she is a sailor. Leif decides on lifting heavy ropes, which even Bugeyes would struggle to carry. Well, she manages to vet a prize, but Leif is still unsatisfied. And then she asks, if she was a man, would she be a sailor? And Leif says...
Now, okay, lifting something that Bugeyes can't lift, not going to lie, that sounds like it's not going to be that hard. And if Gudrid is very, very dedicated to doing it, a life or death scenario for her future career, I believe she can. I don't think it's that crazy. Now, if it's like, oh, Thorkel couldn't lift it and Gudrid could lift it, well, hey, we know what happened there. Thorfinn, Gudrid landed a punch and Thorkel didn't, so we know Gudrid is stronger.
And then she walks off with everyone watching. Okay, I don't know much about sailing, but I'm sure Leif has a good point that in general, women aren't cut out for it, as they aren't strong enough, right? So all of this is just written so childishly. Why is Gudrid so strong here? Has she been doing push-ups this whole time? She's got a tiny build, so how is she as strong as Bugeyes? But given she's this really strong, there's no good reason except sexism to why she shouldn't be a sailor, right? So even if Leif is still stuck in his ways, shouldn't Thorfinn and Einar try to reason with him? I guess another reason why women shouldn't be sailors is what would happen if pirates raided them. You know, women would be much more likely for fuck shit to happen to them. But no one ever mentions this, so I shouldn't have to. So the marriage is happening, and it's time for the conflict.
Yeah, I mean, I say, hey, look, Bugeyes is being undermined. As per usual, I think Bugeyes isn't obviously a paragon of strength. And yeah, I think it makes sense. And Gudrid just wants to push it to stuff. And I think, is it just like he says he would struggle to lift it? Um, um, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if it shows the exact panel. Now, would women be not so good sailors? I mean, hands on deck and experienced hands on decks are still helpful. I know there's pirates and stuff along the ways, but we also know that, you know, particularly in North and Scandinavian culture at the time, at least compared to more Central Europe, women had more freedoms and more abilities to live alone apart from men. But at the same time, while that is the case, you know, there's still very strong gender roles, and so Iron and Thorfinn brought up in this environment, they wouldn't be like exactly questioning Leaf on this, who is the sailor. And it's not to say like Thorfinn doesn't have to be perfect, Iron doesn't have to be perfect, but we'll see what happens along here, right? Because I think you know, Thorfinn's clearly thinking about this. He's like, "Huh, I've never thought of this before." ...
Thorfinn and Einar try to reason with him. I guess another reason why women shouldn't be sailors is what would happen if pirates raided them. You know, women would be much more likely for fuck shit to happen to them. But no one ever mentions this, so I shouldn't have to. So the marriage is happening, and it's time for the consummation. And when Sigurd goes to do the deed, Gudrid subconsciously stabs him in the leg. Sigurd then slaps her, and she runs off. I feel this is a very unrealistic and silly way to deal with such a complex and sensitive topic, but whatever. She ends up meeting the gang at the ship, and ends up going with them on their journey.
I mean, that's an interesting point, right? Like, I was very confused when I first reading that, and that's kind of the point. You're like, hold on, how does this worked? Yeah, there could have been more to talk about, but I think that has already been kind of thematically covered by Arnheid, particularly with her relationship with Kettle. I do think it is to actually say that Sigurd isn't just like a funny evil guy. It is like this is not comedic. This thing,
In a silly way
but
to deal with such a complex. He stabbed him in the.
Yeah, this is not like a comedic thing. It's a bit dark, and maybe it could mean it should be more dark, but yeah,
Sigurd then slaps her, and she runs off. I feel this is a very unrealistic and silly way to deal with such a complex and sensitive topic, but whatever. She ends up meeting the gang at the ship, and ends up going with them on their journey. Am I stupid? Why is the ship so small here? And then Sigurd decides to get everyone done.
So he does cover the part where Thorfinn actually says, "Oh no, we to bring him on the ship," and goes against it. Also, Tula, the absolute goat of a character. Why is this ship so small here? I assume it's because ships were generally that size. We have seen them this big. Maybe it's a drawing error, but
ends up meeting the gang at the ship, and ends up going with them on their journey. Am I stupid? Why is the ship so small here? And then Sigurd decides to get his honor back by going after Gudrid and retrieving her. So this is the end of this little mini arc in Halfdan's village. I skipped over some Gudrid parts, and so I want to summarize her character up to this point, because while I think her character is quite simple, I do think it is a decent start, which sadly won't get any development whatsoever later on. So as a child, she learned about the vast outside world from Leif himself. She was so enamored by it that it was all she thought about, and her greatest dream was to explore it. However, due to her sex and her place on the edge of a world in Greenland, she couldn't be a sailor and had to be a woman and take a man for marriage. She eventually acted like she accepted this, but she really didn't. And I would say part of subconsciously stabbing Sigurd was her not being able to go through with this being her new life. And now she has been let into the gang and is off to explore the world. So that's about where we are at.
That's good. Yeah, he just didn't include the fetid tern analogy, but you know, fetid terns. I mean, Arctic tern, I think, is one of the longest migrating birds in the world. I think it goes from pole to pole, and it's kind of a symbolization of Gudrid wanting to go around the world as well. So yeah, he's not completely wrong. Daddy Flashbang, elaborate on your point. I'll be happy to.
The gang goes to Fairbrooks to meet with Leif.
Fetid tern, Gudrid is best Gudrid. I would say, and it's tough. Yeah, I do think Gudrid has quite a couple of peaks. I think she is quite good in the Baltic Sea War, but it doesn't get the Miklagard arc at the end. And of course, in Karen Vinland, she's been underutilized. Fingers crossed we get more. Is it best Gudrid? Not quite sure. I think there's lots of good pockets of Gudrid moments, but this is clearly the most dense part of the story. Focus on Gudrid, which I think is cool. She might get, Yukimura's done a lot to aid in basically every other character in the main group to get a lot of extra screen time, but Gudrid's not the case, unfortunately, so far. I mean, she's given birth to Snorri, but she's on a boat away now, so we'll see what happens. But fingers crossed. Yukimura surprised me with Aina and Cordelia and Hild and Bug Ice as well, you know, so hopefully also with Gudrid. But Gudrid was like the one I was initially most worried about as well, so we'll see.
And now there is a scene which I appreciate. At least I would if it meant anything later. Morgan speaks to Einar about how even his father kept around his sword and that he wasn't able to cast away his sword until the very end. This is making Thorfinn wonder whether he will be able to navigate the mission without ever needing to draw the sword again. Aina laughs him off, thinking it's hilarious that Thorfinn is more concerned about hurting others than his own survival, and that he'll be fine. He's sparred with the great King Canute. Thorfinn rightfully replies that it was just good luck, and that Canute is a man that can be reasoned with. What's a little missing here is that Thorfinn got what he wanted by literally pure luck. He wasn't even trying to convince Canute to leave the farm after Canute initially declined, but whatever. And then Aina says, Thorfinn, remember that I know who you are, and if your options dwindle and you're forced to take the last resort you fear, then remember how I know how you feel. Thorfinn doesn't know what to reply, and Aina says, maybe that's not much consolation after all. Thorfinn says, it is. Thank you, brother. If this isn't set up for Thorfinn needing to use the last resort, then I don't know what is. But more than that, it shows Thorfinn and Aina both know that the last resort may happen, because obviously, to protect the people you care about, there are situations where the last resort is needed. Kill or be killed. I wonder if this will come up later.
I wonder if it does, but maybe if Aina used the last resort instead. So I do think, there's a difference between I think we'll see what Tim says. Is Tin? I'm calling him Tim, like Will Tim. Anyway, Will Tin. I think what he's saying here, that it doesn't. I think it's all setting up that something bad is going to happen, and I think the Baltic Sea War tries to like keep that tension on whether it will happen, whether or not, particularly with basically Floki's case. And in that case, Thorfinn is able to come out scot-free. I understand that people may be like, "Oh, I can't believe there's not enough stakes and not enough punishment." Thorfinn. It felt too easy for Thorfinn. I can understand that criticism. I think that's what he's setting up with here. The point upon the sword and Thorfinn not even thinking that like he could get rid of the sword. I think that's a really interesting point and something I think it's too early to call if Thorfinn would use the sword or not use the sword. Now, he does use the sword in Baltic Sea War, right? He uses it to almost kill Floki. He cuts off his fingers, at least. But yeah, and he does draw a blade. But, like, this is all setting up, like, will he, won't he? Not necessarily saying that we should expect for him to use it. And if it does, it's meant to add, like, a tension that, like, will Thorfinn... I don't know when Thorfinn will. Will he use it? And all this stuff. So I think that's the point. Lots of people wanted Thorfinn to have more consequences than taken, but which, while it's true, I think it's better right now in Vinland. The BSW, I think, test him for it for his last effort. And yeah, I mean, I think the tough thing about Baltic Sea War Arc is that it does meld into Vinland, the final arc. And so we'll have to see how it goes. And I think people have been pretty pleased with it so far. I think a lot of the issues that people had at the end of the Baltic Sea War get helped out majorly with the Vinland arc. And I think something, because they're like, so you've got the prologue, which is just kind of its own thing about Thorfinn's past, and then you've got later on the Farmland arc, which is about Thorfinn kind of coming up with his ideology, and then the Eastern Expedition arc is multiple tests in different ways for Thorfinn's ideology to apply to himself as an individual, and then you have the Vinland arc, which is to see, okay, can he take that individual philosophy and apply it to a more broader scale on a society-wide thing. And that's kind of how I see as it roughly thematically mapping out. So wait, to clarify, do you think the current arc of Vinland arc is good? Yes, I do. I do think the current Vinland arc is very good. At least from a... I think there are some things I would like more, like we talked about Gudrid. Hopefully, fingers crossed she gets more, but I think so far it is melded very intelligently together. And there's a lot to pick out, and like the last two chapters have been phenomenal, in my opinion. I've really, really enjoying. We'll have to see. Yeah, Wilton would strongly disagree. I'm not sure. What does he strongly disagree? I mean, I'm sure he will. We'll see how it goes. But I think Will was only talking about the Baltic Sea War, and it may be shooting the gun too early, pulling the trigger too early. But I think it's fair because like lots of us that are in this community caught up, when the Vinland arc isn't over, right? Even when it's even getting its proper footing and rumbling on here. So I think it's totally fine that that you could feel a bit underwhelmed, but at the same time you have to realize, hey, it's not over. So it's kind of like bunching things up into arcs and expecting things. But some things can be made retroactively better, of course. He only talks about this arc. Yes, yeah.
So they said.
Also, I noticed I've got a few more people here. Just saying once again, Walton. He has said that I can react to this on stream. He says that, I wasn't so sure if it would be good to react to because of the mic audio and all this stuff. But But I just want to make it clear that, hey, all love to Wilton for making a massive video, and I'm just kind of sitting here chatting about it. I've only gone through 20 minutes, so maybe we should speed
Let's
this
go
up.
again.
But
You come
just
across a place after a war
be nice to Will, everybody.
in the Shetlands with dead bodies everywhere. Thorfinn finds a dog, which leads him to a woman and a baby in a cellar. The woman dies, and Thorfinn takes the baby and says, "We need to find someone who will raise this baby as tenderly as their own. Otherwise, this mother spirit cannot rest." Well, let's see about that. The gang camp out on some shore, and come morning, Siggy shows up to confront them. Gudrid is very luckily hidden, and so Thorfinn claims she is dead, that there was a storm, and she was overboard in a blink. Now, if I were Thorfinn, I probably wouldn't tell the man who tried to kill all of you when he initially thought you were trying to kidnap Gudrid, that you let her die after kidnapping her. That may just be the worst strategy possible, to not get Siggy to try to kill you. Either way, Thorfinn, Leif, and Einar manage to take off on the ship, while Siggy is distraught. But then he sees Gudrid and Bug Eyes on top of this mountain. So how the fuck weren't they seen or heard sooner? Look how close they are. And then we go from this to this. Siggy's gang looks way closer than they should be, and also the ship must have gone around the whole island in like 20 seconds. Seems less than possible. Anyway, they manage to escape and go off with Siggy still on the table. So next is a Hild arc, probably the best part of Vinland after Farmland. Not that that's so much. One issue with it is how
Oh, what? Unbelievable. Okay, so that whole bit, I mean, it clashes a bit with Carly, and there's a lot of interesting thematic stuff there. It's cool. He's my mate at work right now. There we go. Fair enough. Shout outs to Jake. But yeah. What can we say? Yeah. Okay. The ship gets found very quickly. Yeah, I guess that's a plot. I never thought that before. That's kind of cool. That's a good observation there. Thorfinn being like, she's dead. Yeah, I mean, it is an attempt at comedy, and it's meant to be ridiculous. Like, how did you not see on the cliff? Well, that's the joke, right? Like, it's like, oh, I only noticed it once I'm crying, and it's just being, like, made fun of. And I think if I was to give a bit more substantial point of why this comedy, and it's the fact that it's kind of similar to Omar, but it's kind of making the same point, so I can understand if someone's like, oh, we don't need another Omar character. I do think Sig becomes his own character, which is adds more clarification to how Vinland Saga treats young male characters, along with Ivar later on, who builds on that theme, who's built upon Sigurd, which is built upon Omar, which is built upon young Thorfinn. I think all these things... Ooh, I just hit my thing. I think all of these come together, but the reason why we're not taking Siggy seriously is because we shouldn't... Like, this is a juvenile mindset. Using comedy to undermine this philosophy, this Viking culture, which Yukimura does so not sparingly later on. So yeah, that's for sure. The themes are basically built upon each character. Yeah, I think early on, what Will said is that what he liked about Farmland is that every character felt purposeful with their own ideology and all this stuff. And I think still Eastern Expedition arc as overall has very, very strong purpose for each character. I think it is undeniable. I think you can maybe say it's not quite fully utilized, all of it. Like maybe Gudrid could have been used more with at least examining female gender roles. Fair enough. Cordelia's kind of taken on that flag and gone on further. But yeah, exactly. Like Garm, Thorkel, Sigurd, yeah, as I mentioned, Hild, we're getting to Einar, he skipped over the purpose of Carly. And that's really fine, right? But I'd say those reasons are there. Vargan, Ymir, yes. Oh, the absolute goat, Ymir. Would it be sad if I told you that my Ymir video is like my 4th most watched, or maybe 3rd most watched Vinland Saga video? That's a sad day. I did that like in a day. I should do more character. I should do more character videos because I think they do get more views than just kind of like basic, more general stuff. So we'll see. Willabold.
To meet Hild in the first place. You may say Thorfinn has made loads of enemies like her in the past, but I don't buy this. Hild only knew this was the same person who killed her father.
That's my best video. Thank you. Actually, should I be saying thank you? I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. It's like Ymir is just like it wasn't a satisfying video in my opinion. I was like, yeah, Ymir. What can you say? And if you guys have missed the thumbnail of this video, it's the greatest thumbnail of all time. It's got Clown Ymir on it. Yeah, it's amazing.
However many years ago, because someone called out Thorfinn's name in the past. Maybe I could accept them meeting Hild if she wasn't the literal first person they met after just getting to Norway. Another issue is Hild being such a genius engineer at the age of 13 years old with no apparent training. With these two criticisms said, I will summarize the position we are in at the end of this letter. At the age of 13 years old, first person they met after just getting to Norway. Another issue is Hild being such a genius engineer at the age of 13 years old with no apparent training. With these two criticisms said,
okay, so coincidence that Hild bumps into them. Yes. Also, coincidence that Aina ends up on the same farm as Thorfinn. Very coincidental. Now, I guess you could say that's Aina's just not met her before, so that's okay. I guess it's also a coincidence that Bug Eyes and Olmar start fighting in the middle of a random market somewhere. There's a lot of. It's also a coincidence that Garda's on the same like a farm over from Arnheid. That's a bit of a coincidence. Lots of coincidences in Villain Saga. You can make points about. This is another one that yeah, to me it's not too bothersome. Now that Hilda's a gigabrain genius, I guess you could be like, yeah, how is that possible? You know, why is someone so smart? But then again, someone being incredibly smart and then also someone being incredibly strong, inexplicably, like Thorfinn, as a kid who murders adults, at least in the anime. Hey, like, there's gonna be some more anime, super non-serious trips, you know, right? So, I talked about it with him. I think it's pretty likely that it'd run into someone that killed a family eventually. Yeah, fair enough. That Canute invaded that farm. Yeah. I'm wondering how actually coincidental that is. It is somewhat. But Canute just kind of planned it beforehand. It's kind of built up maybe a bit more. But yeah, it's kind of there's lots of stuff. Yeah, no, don't worry, Daddy Flashbang. I understand you're joking, but yeah, there's that. Look, you can look for coincidence in any sort of media. You know, and the issue is not. It's more that, you know. So I have a feeling, if I was going to be a bit uncharitable to Will, I have a feeling that, you know, this is like a general feeling he had, and then he went to go reread it, and he's found these plot holes, but he didn't find them the first time. But he kind of used that to then back up his assertion later. Not to say that he didn't notice some of them on this first time around, just not all of them, and you start getting nitpicky. Kind of how you go, which
I will
absolutely fine.
summarize the position we are in at the end of this arc. So Thorfinn killed Hild's father years ago, and now
Yep.
Hild has Thorfinn in the palm of her hand. She is about to fire a shot, but Force Ghosts of her father and master appear, and don't let her fire it. I really find the Force Ghost cringe, but whatever. Thorfinn tells her his venom plan.
Okay. Force Ghost being cringe. I understand that, but I think it's more. I think it's way more interesting when you view all these Force Ghosts, including Askeladd and Thor's in Ragnarok, as manifestations of their own trauma and their own personal psyche, not as the literal ghost of Askeladd, right? Or Thor's. I know the Force Ghost comes up a bit later with Thor's and Askeladd and Leaf, but that's more of like what Thorfinn realizes in it. If you want to take a more materialistic view, now you could be like, hold on a second. Didn't that shaman guy go get high and see the future, so we know that the spiritual reality does exist in Vinland Saga? Okay, fair enough. You could take it that view, but I still maintain a more materialistic, physical worldview. That, hey, this is Hild's little nag of doubt that says this is not the Thorfinn I remember, even though I really want to, and it's pulling back, and like the little inner core of conflict is seeping through, and you see that conflict build up over the arc subtly in the background, might I say. Like, this is the most explicit version of her, like, in the Baltic Sea War, being like, oh, this is not the right choice, but like, and I'm thinking differently about Thorfinn. Like, it's very clear. Like, I think when people read the manga and read Hild, they assume, oh, she said it, therefore she means it. There's no she's being completely honest and correct about her internal feelings. Like, I don't think that's the case at all, and I think that's what makes it interesting, because you're like, hang on, she says this, but what does she actually mean, where she's actually at her character? Ooh, very subtle, very nice. You know, it's cool. What can I say? But yeah, now, Force Ghosts are cool. Daddy Flashbang, once again. Base take, Ymir video is my best. What more can I say? Wait, is it chill if I clarify what he meant by if there's confusion? Totally. I mean, yeah. If Tim, if Will, I keep on calling him Tim. I don't know why. Apologies. But if Will wants to jump in chat, absolutely fine. I have no issues at all. Yeah. I'm not trying to fight Will here at all. I'm totally right. If Will keeps his same position on everything on one of these points, so don't find me convincing at all, 100% okay. I don't mind. I just think it's interesting to talk about. This is not like a political debate when I need to win or something like that. This is not the idea. I'm not trying to destroy with facts and logic all this stuff. No, it's all in good fun. So yeah, very amicable. I'm very chill, I like to say. So he's got a night shift. Oh, shame, man. Oh, that is too bad because he would have been told. Anyway, this should be all live later if he wants to ping. You know, it would be nice if he could actually join in a Discord and we could maybe chat about it. But anyway, I think, you know, it's good times. Anyway, yeah, exactly. Okay, we're all on the same page. Good. I just being super explicit about it because you know, text and stuff. He was so excited to watch too. Nice, fantastic. No, look, I totally understand. Like, because you put in so much effort and you get. I mean, what's this? This you would expect this. Like, the Vinland Saga. He actually changed this title, which I think is actually probably a better title. I would say while I think the thumbnail is funny, it does take a lot to look at. I don't know if it's like a good clickbaity thumbnail, but and I think maybe this could pop off later when the season 3 comes out. You know, and you know, I want him to succeed. I mean, like, this is a criminal amount of views for the amount of effort that's gone in, which is a big shame. But that's the YouTube algorithm gods. Oh, we're sorry. And eventually, you just need like the candle to light, and it goes off. But anyway, yeah, no. Anyway, I'm glad I can offer some excitement that someone's. I'm yabbering about this. We're already an hour in, and we're only 20 minutes into this video. It's gonna be it's gonna be long. I've been streaming for an hour.
Find out about the natives, apparently. I will create a nation, a land of peace. I will build a greater peace, even than the one that I destroyed. Where I will help raise more lives than the one that ended in a new, uncultivated land called Vinland. Wait. So what actually are their feelings about Vinland and the natives? Leaf did go there, and I guess somehow figured out the natives didn't have a government, just a bunch of different tribes. Maybe that wouldn't be described as a nation. It just feels kind of insane that Thorfinn is saying he will create a nation in a new, uncultivated land. It sounds kind of like colonialism, which isn't very Thorfinn-like. Anyway, Hild says she will put a crossbow through his...
Okay, the whole colonialism now, the idea of colonizing places, they've not got a good implication nowadays. Totally understandable, but colonization, you can colonize other planets. You don't have to take over, and like colonization in itself isn't bad, right? It just has a bad history, right? In the same way where I would clarify that slavery in Vinland Saga is different to the transatlantic slavery that was also awful. All slavery is bad, but there's a historical context which it is in, and Thorfinn's not coming from a massive history where it's like, oh yes, I know smallpox exists, I know that certain atrocities and still to this day have not been rectified with the native peoples of indigenous peoples of a variety of Australia, of New Zealand, of of North America, of South America, so on, right? So yeah, anyway, nitpick, but I think that's a really interesting conversation, particularly in this current arc. It's like, is Thorfinn just inherently in the wrong for trying to colonize somewhere or trying to settle somewhere? I wouldn't say so, but I think that's quite interesting. So yeah. Okay, thank you, Aiko. No, that's fine. Don't worry. I'm rambling here. You don't have to join in with the chat. I'm just glad you're listening, having time. Oh, that one. Oh yeah. We know our favorite. I actually won't say their name because it's like a not safe for work name. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. Okay, Daddy Flashback knows. Okay. Yep. Yeah, they have the hand flare. Yep. Not to subtweet them. They're just an individual that how to say. Has a very similar talking point, which I always think is kind of interesting, but they kind of harp on it a little too much. I feel like we've gone past that conversation. I do think they're definitely trying to rile people up by saying Thorfinn's bad by being a colonialist, and everybody like has a knee-jerk reaction. It's like, and actually like it ended up getting a bit like crazy about it. But anyway, I would say, yeah, exactly. I'm not trying to be too political in my thoughts, but hey, I am a mod of Vinland Saga, so we need to be. Yeah, we don't want to talk bad about people. Yeah, we're trying to be friendly. We have no enemies, as some may say.
It's nothing but talk. What she means by nothing but talk, we will find out later. And last thing about Hild. So she wants to avenge her family, so I get how she would want Thorfinn dead. He was the one who killed her father. But what doesn't make sense to me is how she never asks about Askeladd, the man who led the raid on her village. He's the logical one to blame, him and the person who sent him. So why doesn't she care? This also begs another question. Did Askeladd not become a legend? I'm going to assume Hild doesn't know about his death, because she never mentions it. And what about everyone else in this world? He killed the Danish king, and then was killed by the current king. Wouldn't everyone know about this man? And wouldn't everyone know that Canute avenged the man who killed his father? Just a thought. I think it would be really cool if that day became a day of legend. And to be honest, I don't really get how I wouldn't. So now we get to the first scene.
So, totally, I think it would be kind of cool if you mentioned, like, oh yeah, I remember this guy called Askeladd, really cool. But at the same time, you could also be like, hey, this guy committed regicide. We are not going to, like this is, like, he's not a winner in history. Therefore, he gets no history written about him. No one likes him, right? Like we just sweep on his rug. His whole band is destroyed and disbanded. Maybe Thorkel has some nice things to say, but Canute doesn't want to ever associate with Askeladd and ever say he's good because that would undermine Canute's right to rule. Like Canute wins at the end by saying, "We gotta kill him," and Askeladd sets him up for that. And like that's almost a more tragic thing because Wales doesn't know what Askeladd sacrificed for them, which is an interesting thought as well. So yeah, to that I would say this. I would say to Hild, not talking about Askeladd. I actually think it's one of those things where I'm just like, it's not something Yukimura is concerned about. And he doesn't bring up, and there's some things that you're like, oh, what would happen if this or this or this? That would be a cool one. At the same time, though, Hild's trauma is directly related to Thorfinn. I think that's made that quite clear. And while she could logically blame Askeladd, this is a very emotional and traumatic thing. And so Thorfinn is associated with that. That's why Thorfinn is the one getting there, because at the end of the day, Thorfinn could have chosen not to kill her. Now, and in a way, she has piled all of her hatred for all Norse warriors into Thorfinn as well. All bears. It's just like a traumatic response. It's not a rational thing. Otherwise, now she has a deep hatred for warriors, but it's very personal. So that would be my response to that. Hilda's smart. That doesn't mean she isn't emotional. And I think, and she comes across as emotionless, but that doesn't mean that she isn't irrational, has certain ways of packaging in her mind. And it's almost a way for her to, she thinks that if she can just, because if she admits that Thorfinn isn't the only one in the wrong and Askeladd is also right, then she has to go hunt down Askeladd and every other Norseman. Then she has to end all of wars. It's a way less complicated worldview. She just puts all that guilt on Thorfinn. It's way less burdensome, and she is able to then trick herself and say, if I just kill Thorfinn, if I just get rid of this one guy, I'll be free. I'll be able to propitiate my wrath. What can make this anger and this hurt? She mentions that deep within. How can she get rid of that? And I mean, that's always kind of the point, because she kills Thorfinn and she's like, I still feel angry. What do I do? What's the point of this? Okay, well, then I'm going to kill more people maybe, or I'm satisfied with myself. So, yeah.
Thorkel losing all his interest in parts of his character.
Yeah,
and just
exactly,
becoming a
to
lone
cope
fool
somehow.
Who just loves his war to such a ridiculous degree. So some random spouses arguing in the house, but because they're shouting, Thorkel bursts through the walls, destroying the house.
What a panel. We love, hey, the art's good. You have to say that art is friggin' sick, as some of the cool kids would say.
And he's just a zombie for battle. I just find it really silly and ridiculous and over the top. But moving on. Thorkel is told to move to Denmark by orders of Mr. King Canute, and he isn't happy. So Thorfinn is all healed, and thankfully they have found a nice home for the baby to stay with them.
I'm sure we'll come to Thorkel later, but yeah.
Lovely family who let them stay in their home for 3 whole months. So they are about to leave on the boat. And
Oh, that's a great point. I actually didn't realize 3 whole months inside a family's home, but yeah.
Gudrid hears Carly crying, and she runs back,
We'll get to Thorkel eventually, I'm sure. But yeah.
not wanting to leave the baby. Of course, Gudrid and everyone would be very attached to this little kiddo, and it's going to be a sad but absolutely necessary choice for them to leave him here, because their
Why would you want to get rid of Carly? He's the greatest.
journey is so very perilous ahead, and they found as great a home as they could hope for right here. So they allow Gudrid to take the baby on the boat with them. Fucking what? This is another point in Vinland where it's just so fucking insane. If not before, the story has lost all credibility now. Why the fuck are they keeping a baby on this huge, dangerous voyage? They all would have just fucking died if Hill decided to actually poison them. Remember before they set on this quest, Leif explained the dangers to them, but they want to bring a stupid-ass toddler with them anyway. Doesn't Thorfinn want...
Okay, the whole Hild point, they just read her personality, and they were totally correct. Hild would never poison them, because she's never killed anybody, and she wouldn't just kill randomly and aimlessly. She's very specific. Like, now, in retrospect, we know, yeah, that's definitely not in Hild's character. And Leif, I actually quite like this moment of Leif, because Leif has like understands, and it's like, hey, I've wisdom here. I can read that she's not that type of person that would poison us, I'm very sure. And Bug Eyes is the kind of the joke. And I think Bug Eyes is the everyman here. But yeah, let's say he's right about the baby. This is stupid. I think plot-wise, logically, it is stupid. I know thematically why it is, as though Thorfinn can show he can bring up a child without war. Like the story would be worse without Carly. Vinland Arc would definitely be worse without Carly. I think there's interesting things about it. Yes, I do think it's a good point that Leif is like, this is going to be a dangerous thing. This is going to be a dangerous journey. There's going to be monsters, aka bears, and there's going to be also pirates that could attack us, and so on and so forth. I think the pirates are definitely more troublesome, and I don't think Thorfinn can be like, yeah, I'll definitely be able to get around them. But I do think I mean, this is Norse. I guess they would just plunder and take all their stuff, right? Particularly if they, on the way back, you have to be worried about that. Like once they've got all their gold, if they are able to then do it. But then Leaf and Bug Eyes were able to trade by themselves without warriors, without any expertise. It's just a longer journey, and they let more unknowns. So yeah, you could say, hey, there shouldn't be for Thorfinn to put a baby in this much danger. Yeah, I can concede that point. I can also concede that Thorfinn may think he can protect the baby as well, or they know that Gudrid will take care of it, and it's kind of like they don't want to argue with Gudrid. I think it is meant to be nonsensical in some way, and it will be kind of what is it? Panned off, waved off by Yukimura for more thematic reasons, of course. But yeah, bleed sagas artists. Sagas is quite unrealistic at times. Yeah, the sagas were unrealistic, of course. But yeah, I think he's out of very character. There's a lot of fantasy stuff and crazy stuff, but Carly's a great character though. Yeah. I'm not sure if like the saga excuse would necessarily be like here. It's more like for the mythological aspects, like the crazy strength. That's a good point for Hild's intelligence, of course. She was so smart. She came up with the ball bearing 500 years before it even existed, all this stuff. Yeah, I do think this is one of those points where like it is out of character maybe for Thorfinn to do this, but then it's also a point for the making jokes and the plot. Yeah, and I can understand how like we've come to multiple of these crossroads where somebody is like, I don't like this, maybe, and there could be a reason for making sense. I'm kind of like live analyzing here. I can't think of a reason. Not something I've thought about a lot, but yeah, there could be a reason that like you could think of. I'm kind of thinking my feet, but yeah, I'm willing to concede this point that this is out of character. So well and Will, fair play. You got me this time with your facts and logic, but I'll get you back next time with even more facts and logic. Just you wait.
To live in a place somewhere not here. Hey, maybe this nice little family isn't somewhere not here, but it's sure as hell safer than a year-long fucking voyage. Fuck me, fuck this. Why is Bug Eyes the only one with half a brain? He's the only one not being a selfish piece of shit and calling out how terrible this decision is.
Yeah, I think that is. Yeah, Bug Eyes is definitely in this arc like the everyman, like the actual normal person. And I think maybe it's like Yukimura's way of trying to lampshade and be like, hey, look, like I know this is ridiculous, but this is kind of like the whole point. To be fair, Thorfinn and I know are weird for being against, like really, really against slavery. But then Bug Eyes is also against slavery because he was a slave at some point. So I think that's not a great point. But it's more like showing that Thorfinn particularly is kind of thinking not super rationally, not letting the world. He's a bit new to the Viking world in some regards. Like he doesn't realize Gudrik's thing, and he kind of breaks the mold by letting Gudrik even on the ship and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so on the ship, Bug Eyes brings up how it ain't a safe voyage. They have people chasing them, and everyone correctly brings up that Siggy's gang would either be way ahead or actually just given up and turned around. Because why would Siggy's gang be chasing ghosts for 3 months around Norway? Well, it's shown they are on the Baltic Sea. Somehow in 3 months they haven't gone anywhere really, and they are being chased by pirates. 3 huge pirate ships against them. It is over. So what does Siggy decide to do here? Well, so he's dead. Yeah, he's dead. How else am I meant to interpret this panel? He is announcing at the top of his lungs that he will kill them, and then jumps on their boat with a sword. Look, there's even a dude in the back about to shoot him with an arrow. Okay, maybe they want to capture him alive. It's just hard to picture how they would go about that, and we are not shown it. This is the final panel of them against the pirates, and it leaves much to be desired. Okay, so Floki just...
So, all right. I can totally see like this being like a glorification in Sigurd's mind that he thinks is way more cool and epic than he is. Like he's jumping across and you're like, oh my word, it's crazy, there's a battle. Oh, they're all coming for us. When it's actually just like the Orm's Viking just like, Henry, you're trespassing here. We just want to chat with you. And Sigurd being like, I'm so cool, I'm going to take them all down. And then the Orm's Viking like, he's not that much of a threat. Why? He says they're experienced enough to be like, yeah, okay, we can sort this out. Or hey, we don't kill them because we want to sell them as slaves. I think that's actually the point. The Orm's Viking, actually, I just figured it out myself. The Orm's Viking wants to sell Siggy, right? That's the point, right? So why would you kill what you can make money off of? There you go. The iPhone moment, yeah. What? Oh, I guess, yeah, to be a true warrior. Is that what you're referencing? But yeah.
Arrived in gelling and speaks to Thorkel and says yes, son.
It's actually yelling, not gelling. Unbelievable. Sorry. I think it's meant to be like, you don't say Ylva, it's called Ilva. I think technically like Ymir, it's a Ymir, but hey, I've been calling it Ymir, so Correct me on my my Norse pronunciation. I think is meant to be yelling. It's like J is Y, I think.
Something very nice for him to satisfy his boredom. And would you look at that, it turns out the gang are also in Jelen on the very same day. What an incredible coincidence.
Crazy.
Siggy's going to turn up here from a grave? Oh, dear God, we're officially in a sitcom. A very unfunny sitcom.
Oh no! What do you mean it's unfunny sitcom? This is the greatest thing of all time. No, I'm just kidding. I understand if you find it. I think this whole coincidence thing. Yes, coincidence doesn't bother me. As I said before, there's other coincidences as well. But yeah. Hey, actually, I think Will should, if he is pronouncing it all wrong, absolutely wear his badge of honor. Like, make a meme. Yeah. Oh, it doesn't really matter. I'll call her Hild. Carl Entertainment will call her Hild.
Don't explain.
To this day.
Siggy got out of this situation unscathed. Let's just take a step back and appreciate how Thorfinn, Siggy, Thorkel, and Floki are all in the same place, and just how unlikely that is.
Now, I'm pretty sure. Okay, hold up. Big brain mode. So, Floki is there to see Thorkel. That makes sense. So that makes sense. Like, Floki's actively trying to find Thorkel. Thorkel's not hard to find. Yelling is, I think it's a big Norse settlement, and I don't know if that's where like the Jomsviking also operate out of in some way. Anyway. The fact that they're at the same time, that's the coincidence. But it's not like Thorfinn would have passed through Yelling at some point, right? Just that they're there at the same time. That Siggy is also there. Well, if he's in the Baltic Sea, he's going to be taken to the largest city, the largest settlement nearby, sold as a slave where there's the biggest market or the closest market. And maybe there are some bigger markets that he could have been to, but within a certain radius, be like, hey, if we want to go there, we go to Yelling. So I think the coincidence is more that they're all at the same time. But I don't think it's nearly as big of a coincidence as Will makes out to be. Still coincidence. So if that bothers you particularly, fair enough.
Some garbage is going to happen to make them all connect. So they're walking about trying to trade.
Kessel missing Leaf and Yelling felt like a bigger plot convenience. Oh yeah, like we've already been here where we know this is where you sell slaves, right? But yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, Kessel and missing Leaf, and like, yeah, you've had these cross paths before, and it makes it a bit more tragic. And like, no, Leaf. I think I'm calling him Leaf, but I think it's called Leif Erikson. So, yes. I'm pronouncing his name wrong too.
In Thorkel's crew, who obviously he doesn't want to attract, and he tells this much to Gudrid. Gudrid, a little later, sees Siggy, and genius as she is, shouts Thorfinn's name. This attracts Thorkel's crew, and drama ensues. So Thorfinn denies being himself.
So, well, you've made an unforgivable error here. You've not talked about the Sigurd face. It's unbelievable.
Didn't believe him.
Can't believe
he
it.
Shoved to Hild, who was watching from afar, and said it's all right, there's no harm here. Let it pass quietly. Gudrid has really shown off her supreme intellect recently, and calls out to Bug Eyes when he's not involved. What the fuck are you hoping to accomplish, miss? The only way Bug Eyes could possibly help is if he's not noticed.
This is Pete Gudrid. I don't know what to say. This is great.
Fucking stupid. Bug Eyes knows this, and again, is somehow the only one who has a brain.
This is why Bug Eyes has to deal with the Giga Chat glasses in the thumbnail.
And gets impatient and decides the only way to prove if this is the same Thorfinn is to fight him, so pulls out his sword. Apparently the two women in the crew currently have a shared intellect of Homer Simpson, and so Hild instantly shoots the guy in the arm, which would turn the 1 vs 1 Thorfinn was potentially about to get into a 1 vs 10, because they're completely surrounded and now have reason to attack. Or Hild will get 10 men with swords coming after her, which you probably wouldn't want. Thorfinn ends this by admitting to being Thorfinn and spits some...
Oh, I just thought something crazy. This is not related to put my Hild in the shadows. She's taking a shot. In this instance, she does take the shot, but when it's with the shaman and Muin, she doesn't take the shot. Kind of parallel, because she's in the shadows and they don't know they're there. I would say, yeah, Hild being dumb here makes a certain sense because she has a lack of experience, and she is kind of being like Thorfinn here, where Thorfinn is meant to be her prize, and she thinks he's about to kill her, so therefore she saves Thorfinn because Thorfinn is her prize to kill. Same logic as Thorfinn in the prologue, but she has been very particular, not actually killing him, and instead shooting for his arrow and stuff like that. And she's also confident that she can probably shoot these men fast enough if need be. Well, she's pretty fast at. But yeah, she knows Thorfinn can dodge very well, So I don't think, it's not necessarily the smartest thing, but I don't think it's that crazy. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so Thorfinn ends up having a chat with Thorkel and Floki. Floki finds out that this is Thorfinn, son of Thors. We find out the seat for the Jomvikings chieftain, the commander, is unfilled. The last chieftain didn't give an heir. An ambitious officer named Varn wants it. Floki is too old for the seat, and so he wants it for his grandchild, who is currently too young. And Thorkel exclaims that Thorfinn is a perfect candidate, grandson of previous chieftain Sigvaldi, the son of Thors, and a great warrior. Thorfinn obviously doesn't want it, said as much, and leaves. They get out quick, but 2 of Loki's ships are following, and this is the turning point and the start of the Baltic Sea War Arc. So how do we actually reach the start of this next arc, which is going to last for 40 odd chapters? Well, I want to emphasize how we basically got here on a ship made of straw. They had to run into Thorkel, Floki had to be with Thorkel, and from what happened to happen...
That makes sense. I mean, I guess they probably would have ran into Thorkel anyway. Now, Thorkel's guards were looking for Thorfinn, so that makes sense why they bump into each other. The fact that they're at the same time is a coincidence, but it makes sense that Thorfinn would bump into Thorkel, and it makes sense for Floki to bump into Thorkel at Yelling, because, all at the same time, though, that's a coincidence. So Floki finding out that Thorfinn is son of Thor's, bit of a coincidence.
Siggy also had to be there. Not only that, but Thorkel's men had to be there. Gudrid had to see Siggy, and Gudrid had to shout Thorfinn's name, whilst Thorkel's men were in earshot. Floki and Siggy assumingly both arrived on the same fucking day, and let's not forget, for Siggy to be there, he had to not die from this, and for some reason, still be in the Baltic Sea to even get captured by pirates in the first place. Thorfinn's gang was behind, literally 3 months, from letting Thorfinn's wounds from hill to hill. It's all just so unlikely and convenient and ridiculous. So Thorfinn decides to get off on his own.
I think I made my point on why that I don't think it's that convenient, but yeah.
On an island and go separate ways to the same place, with the pursuers following him. Hild goes with Thorfinn to watch over him. Thorfinn and Hild hide, but the John Vikings start burning boats to stop him from leaving. And because of this, Thorfinn shows himself and says to take him to Floki, but they were just sent after him to kill him. So Thorfinn and Hild take them down, knocking them out, not killing them, and then 2 of the last 3 of Floki's men betray the other, and then claim to be actually undercover men from Varn's side. They want Thorfinn to lead the John Vikings and meet with their leader, Varn. And Thorfinn, as you would expect, basically just says, nah, no way. I am just a simple travelling merchant. Don't get me involved. So that's that, huh? No, because then they say to Thorfinn, Floki will send a second wave of assassins, then a third. Each time, these events will be repeated. I hate to say it, but it is your presence that brings tragedy to the populace. Please use our warship, Master Thorfinn. It would be best for these common folk. You cannot live amongst these sheep, at least not on the Baltic Sea. So somehow, incomprehensibly, this convinces Thorfinn to go with them. If Floki is going to keep sending assassins after you, then why the fuck would you stay around here? What is Thorfinn hoping to accomplish by meeting with this guy, unless he does want to become the leader of the John Vikings, which he clearly doesn't? You cannot live amongst these sheep, at least not on the Baltic Sea. Then leave the Baltic Sea for fuck's sake. Floki ain't gonna be sending assassins to fucking Greece, my guy. Just leave like you were going to. But no, we need this whole shitty arc to happen, so Thorfinn loses all sense, all conviction, and meets with Varn. And now, for the worst assassination attempt I have ever seen.
So, I think that's interesting. We do know Floki will go all the way to Iceland to get rid of any, what can you say, pursuers. Thorfinn knows that. He knows, actually, he doesn't know that Floki is behind it. So I take that back. But we know Floki is very, very persistent. Once he knows there's competition, he will find a way to get rid of it. I think Thorfinn also, he's made it very clear that any lives lost that he's affiliated, he causes, that's a big issue for him, right? Massive issue, massive part of his character. That's the whole point why he wants to create a barrow for the dead and create more lives in Vinland than he has lost, so on and so forth. So, these guys are saying Floki will, while you're in the Baltic Sea, Floki will come after you. Floki will come after you, high tide or low tide, right? He's moving, he's schmoving. Now, does Thorfinn know that about his character? I think that you could then make that point. That maybe not, but Thorfinn, I would say, what strongly motivates Thorfinn is that people lives are being ruined by his presence, and he hates that. And so he feels the responsibility to then do it himself. And that's his whole shtick in his art. That's why Gudrid gets mad at him. That's why Arnheid gets, a little frustrated with him as well, because Thorfinn just takes it all on himself. It's like, hey, I need to deal with this. This is my fault. This is my issue. I've got to fix it. And how have I got to fix it? Well, maybe Vargan has another way of doing this, and I need to hear him out, right? But there's also, at this point, you're meant to be questioning Thorfinn's decisions in some way. Like while he is angry that Floki is following him, he's also, what can I say? He also got snarkier when Askeladd mode against all those Jomsviking, right? That is meant to be kind of like, oh my word, Thorfinn's going ham. Thorfinn's actually like gouging people's eyes out. That's like almost like quite shocking actions from Thorfinn. So you're almost wondering if he's beginning to break here, if this character that he has built up over farmland can withstand this pressure of the Baltic Sea on him. I think that's kind of the point. That's what it's set up later, as you mentioned earlier. Will, with this thing about he might have to use the last resort. Well, we'll have to see. And actually, he does use the last resort here, which is violence against these Jomsvikings. Violence is the last resort. I guess killing is the ultra last resort, but fighting in general is the last resort. Him with Snake was considered using the last resort. The first resort is trying to talk it out. So that's also what the first and last resort are as well, which I didn't don't think I mentioned earlier, but yeah.
scene. So we're with Floki and his son Baldir, and one of the maids decides the best time to stab Baldir is in front of 20 odd guards in the middle of an open space. Now, Baldir was literally just about to go alone inside with the maids, which to me would have been an easier time to assassinate the child. But I'm no assassin, so what do I know? The one who saved Baldir was no other than the greatest character in all of fiction. No, not him, but the one and only Garm.
Hey, Garm W.
I'm dead and buried. So we leave Garm and back with my main man Siggy. Now he's a slave for Thorkel's band. I'm confused if...
So, okay, yeah, made not the game paid off to try and kill Baldur. She's probably not a professional assassin, I assume. That's what I presume from her actions. But yeah, no, she's trying to kill Baldur there. Maybe she didn't even draw the knife. Let's have a look at this. Yeah, I think she was kind of hiding it. So maybe she was planning on doing it inside, but then Garm notices it because he's very perceptive like that. That could be another reason. It's not made explicit. But yeah, even if she's trying to do it out in the open, it's not the smartest thing to do as a maid, to be fair. So yeah.
Character in all of fiction. No, not
But
him,
she's not a
but the one
professional
and only
assassin.
Garm.
Garm,
Now, that's the name I
W,
will never forget until I'm dead and buried.
Garma, do.
So we leave Guard and are back with my main man Siggy. Now he's a slave for Thorkel's band. I'm confused if Thorkel bore him from the pirates, or if Thorkel's group were the pirates. But either way, Siggy's group is now with Thorkel. So now Wolf shows up and tells Thorkel King Canute assigned him to be his military watchdog, whatever that entails.
So I think it's made clear at this point that Sigurd was going to be part of slavery, but then like Thorkel finds that like, oh, he's kind of warrior and could be kind of useful. So then Thorkel doesn't really abide by the laws of the world, and he's just like, yeah, I'll free you as a slave. If I remember correctly, I may be wrong there though. But yeah.
Thorfinn meets Varn, and the first thing Thorfinn says is, "It's an honor, sir, and now I will be getting on with my life." Dude, if this is your attitude, then why the fuck did you decide to meet him? So anyway, Varn is crying his eyes out.
Yeah, I think he went to go see him, but he felt some obligation because of like the family, and also I'm not sure if like he doesn't know what these guys will do if he doesn't join their cause as well, right? So Floki may follow him, but then also these guys may also follow him as well. That could be another thought that goes through Thorfinn's face head.
Because he seemed to really love Thor's, and then reveals the huge thing to Thorfinn, that it was Floki who orchestrated killing his father, Thor's. To prove this, he brings out Atli, the non-vegetable brother who Askeladd sent off to make himself a good proper life.
Atli,
This is a pretty huge coincidence that Varn found him, but
No, this is one of the coolest things in Baltic Sea War. It's so
he
shame.
does admit it at least. Okay, so Thorfinn didn't believe it at face value, but Atli being here really convinced him, which I think...
I mean, yeah, it's another coincidence, but also it's foreshadowed because... is it foreshadowed? No, it's just seeing in the battlefield, but then, yeah, Atli then stole it. So it's not actually foreshadowed by what Askeladd's final words to Timar. But it suggested that, like, he doesn't have a happy life, which is kind of sadness in a way. But it's cool to have callbacks. Yeah, I think it was fun.
It gets a little silly. Ali is literally saying right now, I'll tell you anything. I'll tell you anything you want to know. Let me go home to my family. So I would think the logical conclusion would be that Ali's been tortured to say these things to diminish Floki's character. But instead, this makes Thorfinn go from not being convinced to completely believing it. But to be fair, I suppose it can be implied that Thorfinn was connecting dots from his memory here. Because knowing it was Floki who got forced to leave Iceland in the first place makes Floki being the betrayer make a lot of sense. But more importantly than all this is Thorfinn's reaction to believing Floki was a man who sent Askeladd to kill his father. Now, honestly, I have some mixed feelings, but I can get on board with this reaction. Despite letting go of his anger towards Askeladd in Farmland, he momentarily completely loses it, and hatred overwhelms him after finding out Floki sent Askeladd in the first place. Now, we have to keep in mind, Thorfinn isn't just thinking about revenge here, but also how much of his own life changed for the complete worse because of Floki's actions. And the reason I think this scene in particular works is Thorfinn had the short spark of hatred, but pretty instantly calmed himself and reflected on his anger and says, I want to be a kinder, a gentler person. I want to be a stronger person. To me, this is set up for if Thorfinn ever comes across Floki, he won't have this reaction again. He will be able to process his emotions in time, like he eventually did with Askeladd after he died. But who am I to say? Okay, so after Thorfinn tells Varn he's declining any offer...
Well, we know that's not the case.
He'll find a slave brothel, a place where Varn's men are raping some girls, some looking very young. So Thorfinn runs to it after hearing men shouting, and Heald is kicking them out. Heald shoots one, and Thorfinn shouts, no, don't shoot them, which is probably reasonable, unless they want to take on everyone in Varn's forces. But damn, Thorfinn is really in the first situation since Farmland, where his philosophy of minimal violence is truly being tested. How in the hell is Thorfinn meant to save these innocent girls without extreme force of killing anyone who stands in his way? Or will he see the girls as a lost cause and leave them? Man, that would have some crazy implications for his character moving forward. I assume he will ask Varn to let them go, but I would say most likely Varn will simply refuse, or maybe try to bargain with Thorfinn and say he'll free the girls if Thorfinn becomes the leader of the John Vikings. Man, what then? I assume Thorfinn would have to take being the leader, or at least lie for the time being. What exciting moral quandaries and tests for Thorfinn to overcome. So then Thorkel shows up, and all of this was for fuck all. What a fucking disappointment. Pure luck allows Thorfinn to make an easy choice of leaving with the slave girls with him in the chaos. No serious, slow, complex moments are allowed in a sitcom happy-go-lucky of an arc. Garb shows up next.
I mean, he could have beaten them all up anyway. He already beat all the Jormung's Viking anyway. That's the earlier test. The earlier test has already happened. I'm not sure if that necessarily applies. I do think it's an interesting moral quandary, but it's not something that I think would add a ton if it's Thormorn, but yeah, Thorkel's here. Yeah, well, yeah, Thorfinn and
Next to
Hild
Varn,
did.
and
Right,
Thorkel is
right.
getting pissed off that they aren't fighting yet. Thorfinn and Hild are bringing the goes away, who say they all live near and were doing what they were doing because their families could not pay their taxes that Varn's men was putting on them. Okay, so what Thorfinn and Hild don't seem to realize is that if Varn's forces win, they will just bring the goes back, right? I guess Thorfinn might just assume Thorkel will win because it's Thorkel, but still. And if Thorkel wins, I could definitely see his men pillaging the nearby villages. I feel Thorfinn and Hild should stay around to make sure the goes and villagers stay safe. But no, they want to leave. Garb then confronts Thorfinn with Varn's head, and Thorfinn simply runs off, and Garb follows. Garb can catch up to Thorfinn, going at full speed, so we basically learn he is one of those characters in this universe, which is a freak of nature. Yeah, Garb is a complete monster. Thorfinn got wounded, and he apparently purposely made it not fatal. Thorfinn simply runs off again, and Garb...
Yeah, I get it. Thorfinn and Hild are more worried about. I mean, they're not necessarily thinking it through, but they're more thinking, "Hey, we need to save these people." And they found out, oh, well, Vargan will probably get those taxes from them anyway, and it's more just like, "Well, this we don't know what to do. Well, we'll try and help you out, right?" Hey, it kind of sucks, right? It's kind of dropped. And
Garb doesn't follow this time. His logic is Thorfinn will just keep running, and he wants a proper fight. I don't buy this. If Garb kept chasing Thorfinn, eventually Thorfinn is going to have to fight him properly. It doesn't make sense why he wouldn't just keep assisting to me. So Thorkel is now going after Floki, with Varn's men as well, because Floki stole his prize. And I don't know, it's another battle with Thorkel, sure.
Garm letting him go. I mean, I guess you could say like he keep on running and Thorfinn, but like Garm wants a proper fight, right? And he's already injured Thorfinn, and so yes, Garm wants to. Garm's quite obvious, and he wants to die while fighting. That's kind of his goal.
So Garb managed to get ahead of Thorfinn and Hild, and takes...
It's a point where you could go either way. I think it's a bit nitpicky, but you go either way on Garm's character, on whether he thinks he could go with Thorfinn or that's really the fight he wants to do. He wants people to go all out. Like he's not even fully satisfied with Thorkel's fight with him.
Einar, Leif, and Gudrid leaving Bug Eyes to tell Thorfinn what happened. Now we see the legend King Canute half a year ago. There are too many wolves in his forest, and so he says, have them devoured.
Actually, beta character.
Novine Tarno Warkins. Kill the chief, and a pack would tear itself apart to replace him. This is clearly an allegory of what Canute is doing right now. Canute was the one who killed the John Vikings chieftain, so the John Vikings would kill each other for the seat. I assume he thinks they were too strong and rogue to be left alone. So Garb managed to detour the Einar people and get...
Sorry? Jake is question marking. Let me know what you're question mark about. Maybe I'm not making sense about something, but...
to Jomsborg before Thorkel got to Jomsborg. This seems pretty unlikely to me. Look at this map and the extra distance Garb have to cover.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So yeah, so Vargan's base. Canute beats it. That's a meme from like a tier list I did like 4 years ago. So yeah.
And also, for my very minimal research, I found out that apparently bigger ships sail faster than smaller ships, which would make this
bigger ships sail faster than smaller ships. Interesting.
Even more unlikely. Thorkel might have rested at Varn's base, but that was never shown. Either way, let's move past it. So Garb seems to walk into Jomsborg alone.
Hey, Garm, we know what do you think he's good at? He's fast. He ran up a wall. He could run across the water for all we know. He may not even need a boat. So
True. Gets thrown
he probably finds a way. I'm just kidding.
in jail for killing Varn and angering Thorkel. And somehow the crew is already in the same jail, but without Garb's men. I don't get how this happened, because either Garb would have just took them into the base, or got them to wait outside with his crew, right? But the crew ain't here, so didn't get captured as well. I don't get it, but let's just move past it. Now, I have to assume they're going back...
I'm not super familiar on the plot points there, but that's interesting. Yeah, like they got taken in with Garm. I guess he's already talked to Floki, and then Floki gets mad, and they get put there, like put him there as well. I feel like that makes sense in my head, but I may need to reread. Good point. Good point, Will Tin. There we go. I'll give you that one as well.
Because otherwise, Garb is actually just teleporting. I say this as Thorfinn has just gotten to Bug Eyes. So Bug Eyes told Thorfinn about Garb, and Thorfinn seems like a bit of a bitch to me here. He says, if we go to Jomsborg, I'm likely to kill someone. I just have a feeling. It's impossible to get Einar, Leif, and Gudrid out of Jomsborg without slaughter. I don't see the first resort this time. In order to save someone, I have to kill someone. Okay, for one, this seems like foreshadowing, or Thorfinn having to kill someone, but we'll see about that. And yeah, my issue with this is just despite Thorfinn obviously not wanting to kill someone, I do think the emotions of Einar, Leif, and Gudrid being taken away should overwhelm any emotion of not wanting to kill. Bug Eyes also thinks this and speaks some facts. Huh? What are you? What? You're not making any sense. Get it together, Thorfinn. It's not someone. In order to save our companions, we're going to beat some warmongering assholes with a death wish. What's more important to you? Do you really need to put it on a scale to figure it out? And from this, Thorfinn is still looking unsure, which is just pretty insane to me. If I'm being fair, I suppose Thorfinn might just be feeling depressed and not actually considering whether killing some terrible people to save his friends' lives is a worth it trade-off. Anyway, it takes Bug Eyes trying about losing the leaf for Thorfinn to snap back and say, "You're right. I'm sorry. Don't worry. I swear. We'll rescue them. I swear it." Man, this really feels like Thorfinn is going to have to use his first resort, which will be very interesting. Thorkel has a...
I think you can ask, like, this is a great moment for Bug Eyes. Bug Eyes has done this actually previously in chapter 100 of Thorfinn, where he kind of speaks truth and plainly to him about, like, hey, get over yourself. We need to figure this out. There's more important things to hear. And yeah, it's okay for Thorfinn to be wrong. But yeah, no, it's good scene. I think he's highlighting that, like, oh, we're trying to think is Thorfinn's big. And that's the whole point. You know, it's leading up to this moment. It's like, will he or won't he kill someone? Like, can Thorfinn keep his oath? You know, and you've been seeing him lose it. You see him use dirty tactics against Jorm's Viking in chapter 129, and then you see him go for just a moment incredibly angry once he found out about Floki's death. So far, you see him getting more and more irritated that all Floki is following them. It's like, I'm just a simple merchant, you know, just let me go. All these things. So I think that, yeah, definitely, clearly, building to a certain moment.
Has arrived in Jomsborg, and so Floki sends Garb to Thorkel, tied up as a peace offering. But it's Thorkel we're talking about, so it doesn't work. Garb and Thorkel end up in a one-on-one fight.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
and now for a
California Penguin, you bet I'm defending this fantastic arc. I've been doing it for a whole hour and almost 40 minutes at this point, but yeah.
stupid escape. So Balder comes down, says he sends the guards away, and simply unlocks a cell. Hey kid, I get you're the future Jorm's Vikings chief or whatever, but motherfucker, you can't just send guards away. I guess he could have just said they are wanted by Floki or something, but come on, I ain't really buying it. Either way, he's down here. He's swapping them out for his servants and changing their clothes.
Look, we find out later that Floki is absolutely ravenous when it comes to Balder, and Balder can probably influence the Jorm's Viking incredibly heavy because Floki has so much influence. He has so much influence over Floki. It kind of knocks down the way. So I think so. Yeah, he gets more stuff into the Thorfinn stuff later. Cool.
Leaf asks, you're setting us free? But why? And Balder replies, because I'm the reason this war is happening. Please help me. Okay, so we jump into the middle of Thorkel's and Garb's fight, and something is instantly wrong. Thorkel having lots of small cuts makes sense, but Garb? Remember when Thorkel fought Thorfinn the 2 times? When Thorkel gets hold of you or lands a blow on you, this happens. And this. And if Thorkel ever swings an axe at you, this will happen unless you dodge. Garb's cuts here makes no sense whatsoever in a fight against Thorkel. What is this panel? Just random movements and this?
No, okay. Okay, I get the cuts point. That's fair enough. He's using axes. You wouldn't expect a slash. Yeah, like you'd expect him to get more shots, but maybe it's because Garm is so fast that that he can't overtake Thorfinn. And maybe Thorfinn's just this is confirmation that current Thorfinn is actually less strong than his prologue version. Ooh, that's the power scaling.
Makes no sense whatsoever in a fight against Thorkel. What is this panel?
This is a sick panel. I don't know. I think it's
just random movements and this.
No, it's going to be. Yeah, I feel like how do I explain it? I mean, it's going to be show how fast they're moving. It's crazy. It's like so fast that like they're in multiple positions on the page at once. Like that's how the art is. I mean, if you don't like it, that's fair enough. I think it's personally really cool. But yeah,
it should be a fight with speed against Braun, like back when Thorfinn fought him in the snow. But now it's speed versus speed.
I mean, it's back there. How you're not even complaining about it there?
It should be a fight with speed against Braun, like back when Thorfinn.
Look, I mean, Thorkel. There's multiple Thorkels and multiple Thorfinns here. Like, is this not? This is the same art. Anyway.
For him in the snow. But now it's speed versus speed with zero strategy. How does Thorkel, the absolute mountain of a man, fall over here? Back in time, his only weakness was booting him in the head, and now he's falling over to shallow cuts. Thorkel's main man even says, they're quite alike. No, they are not. Well, not fighting techniques and builds-wise. Garm and Thorfinn are alike in that nature, not Thorkel. No one is like Thorkel. Okay, and then Thorkel's main man calls it a draw. Yeah, good luck telling the 2 people whose main goal is looking for a good fight. Just stop fighting mid-good fight. Oh, shit, it worked. Thorkel's man's logic is, telling the 2 people whose main goal is looking for a good fight. Just stop fighting mid-good fight. Oh, shit, it worked.
Yeah, okay, this is an interesting characterization for Garm, actually. I think your presupposition is what Garm's character is may be wrong and should be overwritten by this scene, which is quite defining for his character, is that Garm is having great fun, but he knows Thorkel is holding back, and he's like, okay, I'm happy to take a draw now if he can then later get Thorkel to go all out on him later. That's the point, and I think Thorkel will listen to Asgeir. I'm not quite sure how to say his name, as we've seen how Asgeir helps stop Thorkel in the prologue. To a standstill, it's just, I mean, Thorkel's still really fast. I know he hits really hard, but Thorkel's still really fast. So, yeah. And maybe he's changed his fighting style because Garm's got an incredibly long weapon this time, and Thorfinn had a really short weapon, so he changed his fighting style. You know, like, different fights can turn out differently. It's not, you know, Thorkel doesn't get to be the strongest warrior in the world by fighting only one way and one way only, I would presume. Maybe he could just smash through everything. Fair enough. But I would also assume that he's able to use multiple different techniques, weapons and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd also say, yeah, axes are probably not going to slice like that unless it's very close. Anyway, yeah.
Thorkel's man's logic is, it's a waste of strength, and if they continue like this, both of them are going to suffer wounds they'll never recover from. I honestly can't see either of these people except in a draw. I really can't. One of them should die. I feel like it would be easier to argue for Thorkel. He would be more excited for a big fight than to finish up one duel or something. Maybe. But Garb's pretty much only counter trait is looking for a good fight. And he presented one on a platter. Well, he's halfway through his meal. He accepts a draw so quickly and says, oh crap, I had arrangements with Thorfinn after this. I was having so much fun, I forgot. Why is fighting Thorfinn more interesting to him than fighting Thorkel? Shit makes no sense. So the battle is broken out and both...
It's interesting. I feel like your questions could have answers if you're trying to be a bit more positive about Garm's character. I think it's a really interesting point. It's like, why does he want to fight Thorfinn more? I don't think that's necessarily a plot hole. I think that's more of a, oh, this is interesting, right? So it would be boring if one of them's like, okay, of course, narratively, we're arguing logically here. But I think one thing, and this will come up, I'm sure, with the Thorkel scene with Gudra's punch, but like, just because a character acts differently to how you initially perceive them doesn't mean that actions now shouldn't color their character, right? If you do, I know something may fall out of character, but that should make you think, okay, what does that actually mean for this character? I assume Yukimura has a point here, and so with Garm doing this stuff, maybe you could be like, he just wants the plot to move along, right? Or he's doing a bit of offensive, but he could also be doing all of this at once and trying to make an interesting character moment for Garm, right? So Garm clearly finds something peculiar about Thorfinn, the fact that he runs away and it's a different type of fighting and so on and so forth. So I think this is, it is a constant thing with the Thorkel moment with Gudrid later on, where I'm like, hey, no, this actually colors Thorkel's character. It doesn't destroy Thorkel's character. That's my point later on. But yeah.
Odia is telling the gang that he doesn't want to be chieftain and to tell Thorfinn to stop the war. He thinks Thorfinn is leading the battle because he says an envoy from the attacking forces asserted, our chief Thorfinn is the rightful ruler of Jomsborg. With Varn out of the picture, it feels weird that Thorkel would send this envoy to say this, but whatever. He gets them to the well, the secret tunnel, and after Einar and Leif go in, Gudrid loses all urgency and starts chatting to Bodia about taking him with them. Because of this, they get caught. A guard starts talking to them, and I guess Leif is going deaf because he can't hear the guard talking to them and shouts for Gudrid. And then Gudrid comes up with this shit. Everyone just thinks everything is just a fucking comedy, and
Hey, look, okay, this is not good. This is not the best Gudrid comedy. I would say this is not the best. But the fart, I look, hey, you go back to my my first Finland Saga video, I also complained about the fart jokes. But yeah. Yeah, not my favorite. Now, Leaf not hearing in the bucket, that makes sense. If you've ever been down a hole, you can't always hear what's at top. So, you need someone to yell down at you because you're a bit further away and all this stuff. Just the acoustics. But yeah.
And it's gonna get worse. And come on, if he gets found out, she might get thrown in prison or just instantly killed. And this fart thing goes on, and it pains me to my core.
Yeah. Okay. Let's no, we'll come back to that point later. But yeah, okay, I didn't find the joke funny either. So
the other manages to get tricked anyhow. Like an actual Assassin's Creed NPC. Must have been the wind. You get it? Like a fart? I can play your game as well, Makoto Yukimura. Okay.
Makoto Yukimura. I would say that was a good joke. See, I like the wind part. Don't worry about. I'm just making fun of your. I actually don't know how Makoto Yukimura.
Logs thrown at him, and then he gets oiled and fired. As in, gets oil and fire thrown at him, lighting him on fire. Thorkel then decides to jump into the nearest water. Okay, so correct me if my science isn't up to scratch, but oil plus fire plus water equals big explosion fire, right? But no, instead it just puts the fire out. Whoever's working with Yukimura and didn't mention this should be fired. So Einar and Leif are on the battlefield, and when they run down the hill, Leif gets wrecked by 2 arrows, one in the leg and one in the back. And guess who Einar happens to run into coming up the hill? Well, it's our good friend Siggy. This is just a classic coincidence that have been bountiful in this arc. Now Thorfinn, Thorkel, Einar, Leif and Siggy all meet at the same time. Everyone starts screaming at Thorfinn about various things, but most importantly, he finds out Gudrid is still inside and says, I see, alright, don't worry, I will solve this. I appreciate showing these Vikings about to be executed, talking about life and death and Valhalla. I really like it. Thorfinn through the secret tunnel, and Siggy has been tasked to follow them. One of Balder's maids surprises him and leads them to Gudrid. I've done it, and inside Jomsborg, the glory will be all mine. Who is brother talking to? Then his cronies pop out the well, and they all start shouting. Hey, it's not like they're all gonna die if someone hears them. Well, some guards hear them, as the fat one pops out of the well. Siggy takes care of them, and then more and more guards show up. They are fucked. Garb sprints up a vertical wall, which I find ridiculous even with his god powers. If everyone in Jomsborg can't kill him, battles just become silly. I get Thorkel and Thorfinn are also crazy busted, but this is just another level. Then we get some more comedy.
Is it another level? I mean, I have not seen Thorkel against Jorm's Vikings, to be fair. It is undermining it all, which is a point later on. But yeah, go on running up a wall. Yeah, like Thorfinn literally jumped and then climbed up a wall with daggers. over a moat. Thorkel like lifted like a massive boulder and punched a horse. It's all ridiculous.
With the subtlety of a slap in the
have an
face.
issue.
Okay, let's get something straight. These are John Vikings we're dealing with. Have we forgot? Remember how menacing the John Vikings were back in Farmland? Only Snake had the upper hand against them.
Oh, yeah.
They're literally the strongest group of fighters.
Yeah. Oh, true. Yeah. Thorkel literally like throws a spear and aces two people across a valley. That's ridiculous. But yeah. I mean, Ymir. Hey, I have a feeling that Mr. Tin doesn't like Ymir. Who could possibly wonder why? But yeah, the fighting bears and stuff as well. Yeah.
In all of England and Denmark. But despite all that, you're telling me Siggy and the Fat Man can get out of this situation like it's no big deal. We don't even see it on screen. And then start sneaking around and lighting fires, which is a signal for Thorkel's army to move in, by the way. Then these couple of plonkers start talking about looking like this. Something about Gudrid and Siggy not loving her or some bullshit. I don't give a fuck. What is happening? So
Oh
then
yeah,
Thorkel starts-
dude. You also have the coin guy as well, which my friends really dislike the coin guy in Farmland as well. I was like, oh, you can flick a coin like that? What's going on?
chatting the Bodia and
Plonkers.
Gudrid, with no sense of urgency, just chatting away in the middle of an enemy base with the grandson of their leader, not a care in the world. This dilly battling results in Floki barging in and Thorfinn gets enraged. Floki tells two guards to kill Thorfinn with no caution for his grandson right next to him.
Okay, let me take the time to say it here. So yeah, Jorm's Viking should be really strong. They shouldn't be so menacing and so like crazy and almost foreboding. But also kind of cool in some ways, in Farmland and also in the prologue in Iceland and stuff like that. And I understand reading this the first time definitely feels a bit bad because like there's so much comedy around the Jorm's Viking, and mixed in with some seriousness as well. Mr. Tin also mentioned like those guys getting decapitated was good stuff. But one thing I would say is that like the whole arc is about undermining war and making it actually like stripping back the curtain and seeing like how pathetic all of it is in its totality and being very indiscriminate and also almost taking pleasure in how stupid these guys. When the grandpa gets crushed by that catapult boulder, when these guys get punched by Floki and like I would say that there's Sigurd and Fatty stuff inside. And the fact that he's called Fatty inside Jormsburg and them running away maybe takes it a bit too far. And definitely like the comedic tone. I think the point is clear that like we shouldn't like the Jorm's Vikings don't like let's undermine them because I mean we've kind of gone back on that in the most recent chapter in an interesting way. But yeah, I think it's totally valid to feel like they have been undermined and it feels kind of bad. But I think that's also kind of the point. Like it's undermining them with comedy, and we're undermining. I feel like I would have said this better earlier, but like that's the Garm. I mean, I feel like I've put it better in better words before, but yeah, the point is to undermine a lot of the Baltic Sea War and kind of take away all the cool aspects of the Viking culture and be like, actually, this is really, really not that cool. Hence the really strong scene of like the guy saying no Valhalla later. Yeah, it's also dark comedy. I mean, there's some jokes that land and some jokes that don't. I would say Baltic Sea War has the funniest jokes and the least funny jokes in all of Vinland Saga. Like the fart joke being one that I don't like, but then also the guy shooting his brother by accident on the other side of the wall. That one I always find very funny. My favorite one, another favorite joke I love the ladle joke. I think it's just very clever. But yeah, okay, we got a lot of stuff saying. Well, the Latest Traveler proved him wrong. I guess the Latest Traveler shows that Jorm's Viking are still legit. But it's like different purposes in a way. I feel like Jorm's Viking, when presented as stupid in the saga, because you can want to show us how stupid and pointless war is. Yep. At some point, they were a little too incompetent, though. I think that's a great way of playing it. Like, at some points, maybe it didn't work so well. And yeah, I kind of, I'm not going to be... I've already conceded many points. But yeah, maybe like Siggy was a bit... I think the Siggy in fact was maybe a bit too comedic, particularly when it tried to have a very genuine moment, as he shows in those barrels. It's like they're in barrels and having this genuine moment. It's kind of funny seeing the barrel thing on top of his head. But yeah, I do think one of the weaker parts of Vinland Saga is like this like 150 to 160, even though there's some really good moments like that, like with Thorfinn and the guide to Valhalla. I do think some of the Baltic Sea War stuff, Ymir is another one which I don't particularly think is the best, but yeah. The fart joke is great. Oh, hey, Ryan, I'm glad you liked it, man. More power to you. I think I would say that the prologue and Farmland critique war and Viking culture, but without really terrible inconsistent tone. So I think there's an interesting point where I you still come across people who like there's a trial here. And I think okay, how do I say this? So the farmland still shows stuff as cool, and like people still think Thorgil is a cool character, right? You see the reactions to from people like, oh my word, Thorgil's the only one doing action. This is really fun. Like he's really fun. But he still shows a clear critique of war, right? And I think Yukimura tries in some way to see how can I take away like the visceral coolness and like undermine it completely, and what does that do? And I think what you often find is that when a writer rebukes the audience entirely that they built up super clearly, then people really, really dislike it. I think a great example of this has been the kind of turn against The Boys. But The Boys season 1, I wouldn't say is thematically different to The Boys season 2, season 4. Right? But lots of people complain about The Boys season 4 because it seemed to be way more, it slather on the anti-wokeness. Oh no, the wokeness. Sorry, it made fun of like the conservatives a lot more. But then I remember from the first season where it's like clearly making fun of like evangelical Christians massively to what I would feel like as a caricature of itself, right? And like Homelander, made fun of. And I think it's an interesting point. The same thing with Joker to Joker 2. Like I think Joker is, when I watched it, I thought it was quite clear that the Joker is really lame. Like you take what the great character that we know from the Heath Ledger, which is so cool, and then you make it into something way more like something you can empathize with, but someone way less cool, and like it's not nearly as like awesome, and you can still see it's like, well, this is just a mentally ill individual that needs a lot of help, and we should feel sorry for them, and not like grandize the Joker symbol. And then the Joker 2 kind of comes in and makes it super, super, super clear, because not everybody got it in the first one, and then in its efforts of trying to make it super, super clear, it also made a not very good movie, and so everybody hated it regardless, right? Even people who agreed with the first one. So there is a critique of like media literacy, and how much do you try and really push into people's faces. You can maybe make a case that Baltic Sea War does a similar thing, where it's like you have the Jorm's Viking and it kind of pushes against it, but so much so and I think with the inconsistent tone, I think it's understandable if people, and I do wonder if they would like reduce like Sigurd's comedy here. I think you don't have to do it entirely. I think there's stuff with like, I think Gudrid, most of her comedy is great. I think just the Sigurd stuff at some point, particularly when it's going through a very meaningful character moment, it makes sense. But yeah, anyway, Thorgil's go-to. Thorgil is, I mean, I wouldn't say I care a lot about him, but he's a lot of fun, right? Yeah, without a doubt. I was hyped when he jumped Canute. Fair play, man. Fair play. That's Kyle Entertainment also agrees with that. I'm not even gonna lie. I think that's totally fine. Like, I really like Vinhard's point here. If you've watched his video on Thorkill, I highly recommend it. For like, Vinland Saga does a good job of not pretending that violence isn't fun, and you could argue like Baltic Sea War fails at that because it kind of makes it all look goofy, but it kind of goes over the top of it. But at least I hope you can see what it's trying to do. But yeah, oh, you like Joker 2? Nice, good stuff, good stuff. It's a really human story and sad. It's a shame. I don't think all of it is unfunny. Probably does though. I did watch that. Yeah, okay, fantastic. You watched Vinhard's thing. I don't think of all of it was unfunny. Yeah, true. There's comedy throughout Vinland Saga without, but yeah, I think everybody would agree that Baltic Sea War has more, and it's a bit more explicit. I wouldn't say necessarily intentional, but yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Some of the humor does land for sure. Yeah. All right, cool. Vinhard is great. We love Vinhard. He's coming out with a video this month, hopefully. So it's Christmas, all of us. It's going to be his first mega one in like 12 months. So, oh man, looking forward to some good food.
Pacifism both, and screams, Floki, sword in hand. Okay, before anything else, I want to clarify where Thorfinn's psyche is on killing and violence, hatred and revenge. Number 1. If push comes to shove, Thorfinn will kill someone for self-defense or to save innocent lives. Number 2. I can imagine people so horrible that Thorfinn would kill to prevent future suffering and death from happening at their hands. Number 3. There are certain scenarios where Thorfinn will kill out of pure feelings of hatred and revenge. Number 4. When Thorfinn first came across the beaten Arnheid back in Farmland, he seemed immediately angry, but quickly calmed down. When Arnheid died, Thorfinn was deeply sad and angry, but I wouldn't say revengeful. When Einar was going to kill Ketil, Thorfinn stopped him and basically said that Einar shouldn't follow the path of vengeance that he had. Okay, I despise Ketil, and obviously he's deplorable, but he isn't evil. I assume Thorfinn thought out how Ketil got to this point mentally.
Oh, is Kettle evil? Is he not? Yeah, I'm not going to argue that point.
How immensely got fucked
But yeah, no, I'm not going to nitpick that.
over by Canute, and how he was about to lose everything. Also, Ketil probably wasn't intending to kill Arnheid, and what he did was technically legal, as she was a slave. I think
That's not a good argument. Legality and morality, you don't need to conflate the two. Yeah,
a lot of Thorfinn's anger would be towards the system that allowed this, as well as Ketil himself. And the last and most important thing for what
I do like your point though. Kettle didn't wasn't thinking he was going to kill Arnheid. At least when it's kind of manslaughter. But yeah, look, I'm like I wouldn't say I'm a Kettle defender, but I think he gets a lot of over hate online. For understandable reasons, understandable emotional reasons, but I think it does a disservice to the conversation around Kettle if you're a bit too knee jerk with Kettle's just the worst person ever. But at the same time, you have people who unironically come onto the subreddit and be like, Kettle did nothing wrong and Arnie deserved it. So sometimes the reaction is justified because they're worried with who they're going to get. Sorry.
and how he was about to lose everything. Also, Ketil probably wasn't intending to kill Arnheid, and what he did was technically legal, as she was a slave. I think a lot of Thorfinn's anger would be towards the system that allowed this, as well as Ketil himself.
Ooh! I take it all back. Jake Barnes, you have saved Wilton. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Okay, yeah. So Thorfinn's anger, because it's legal, should be against the society that we live in. Oh, society. We're all back to Joker 2 and Joker 1. But yeah.
As she was a slave. I think a lot of Thorfinn's anger would be towards the system that allowed this, as well as Ketil himself. And the last and most important thing for what's going to immediately come up. In Farmland, Thorfinn said he doesn't hate Askeladd anymore. Now, obviously Askeladd is dead, but I would wager, if Askeladd came back from the dead, alive and well, Thorfinn wouldn't have any feelings of revenge. So why would Floki be so vastly different? Well, that brings us back. Thorfinn isn't just looking mad, he's looking like he's lost all sense of self. Thorfinn never even looked like this back in the prologue. It's ridiculously exaggerated.
Oh, does he? I actually was thinking for a second. Does he ever lose his? He does lose his pupils when he's drawn sometimes, particularly when it's shadowy. Like when he is. But yeah, I couldn't think of the one with flames. You have Bjorn who loses his pupils kind of like this. But yeah, interesting point.
And goofy. Okay, Floki does pull out a sword.
I don't think it's goofy.
Of self. Thorfinn never even looked like this back in the prologue. It's ridiculously exaggerated and goofy.
I wouldn't say. I think it's really like, oh my word, jeez.
Okay, Floki does pull out a sword, but then mid-speech, Thorfinn slashes him, cutting off 3 fingers, and here again, Thorfinn has zero control. He's then about to swing his sword and murder Floki, but Baldur jumps in the way. Thorfinn holds his pose for quite a while, whilst Hild and Gudrid talk. Hild is aiming straight at Thorfinn, and Thorfinn must be aware, if he kills Floki, Hild will kill him as well. Thorfinn only puts down the sword after Baldur starts crying and saying things like, kill me instead, I'm to blame for everything, I'm sorry I can never stop him. Then Thorfinn snaps the sword on his knee. I think the scene is essentially a character assassination of Thorfinn. In a scene where Thorfinn got angry when finding out Floki killed his father, anger overwhelmed him, but he very quickly calmed down, processed his thoughts, and said he didn't want to be like that ever again. Why would seeing Floki change that much and make him so utterly mindless? He was with the person who killed his father for 12 years, and he was never just mindless like this. He had 12 years to kill him in his sleep, or any other time, but his emotions let him wait to attempt to kill him in a duel. Somehow, current Thorfinn got to a point of being more controlled by revenge than Kid Thorfinn, whose entire life was revenge. And like I brought up before, Thorfinn had no hatred for Askeladd anymore after he died. Why would Floki be so different? And also, Baldur's and Hild's presence just confuses the entire scene. We really have to assume Baldur is what prevented Thorfinn from killing Floki. I don't see how else we can take it. And then we need to consider that Thorfinn would have killed Floki, despite knowing him killing Floki would be killing himself by Hild's hands. So you're telling me our current Thorfinn would kill for revenge while killing himself in the process, whilst Kid Thorfinn wouldn't have, when he wouldn't have died in the process. What world are we living in? I get Thorfinn eventually woke up, but too little too late, my friend. Okay, and as a little icing on the cake, Thorfinn does not know for sure that Floki ordered the kill on Thors. I get he would find it likely, but he doesn't actually know for sure. Also, they were very lucky no girls heard all the shouting and crying. They tie up Floki and want out. Thorfinn's...
Cool. All right. That's a really hot take, and I love it. I absolutely love that take. Yeah. There is a character assassination from Thorfinn. I think it's interesting to be like, yeah, Thorfinn never had that much rage. Now, there are definitely depictions, particularly when like Thorfinn's all blacked out, where he has like white eyes and going absolutely crazy. There's one particularly in the battle against Thorkel. Yeah, so like, and Thorfinn definitely has crazy rage. I mean, I think it's chapter 35. You have Contact, which I guess he still has his pupils, but it's very similar, just absolute pure rage, just absolute wildness, where he finds out that Askeladd could die, and he wouldn't be able to do revenge on him. I think this is another one of those situations where trauma is trauma, and I think it makes sense that it could come up. With Thorfinn in this moment, he is very, very, like, he has he says he doesn't think hates Askeladd anymore, and it's kind of gone from his heart. But it's also just kind of like Askeladd's not there, right? And we find out later that he still despises Askeladd, right, when he fights against Garm, which is another interesting point. So just because you say something, as I said before, like doesn't take away the actual feeling when you're put there. Like Thorfinn says, I don't have any hatred in my heart. He asserts that, but then when he gets down to it, and he uses Askeladd's technique. He's just like, I despise that I have to use this because I don't like that man. I may have got the wording slightly wrong there, but there's nuance there. And I think you kind of overbrush the fact where you think you found out about it, and there's this rage that kind of boils up inside. I think it's also compounded by Floki just trying to kill him as well, and then also destroying people as well. So Floki also just being an awful human being, right? And annoying Thorfinn before Thorfinn even knows about this, right? So those feelings towards Floki are compounding. And then also, and it's like you're ripping the whole band-aid off at once, right? Thorfinn was able to stew and seep in his rage when he was a child, and not all at once. So I think it makes sense that it could all come exploding out at once in a moment of weakness, where he does slash off his hands, and Floki comes in with a thing. Now, I think there's a key thing here. I don't think Hild plays a part in this at all. I do think it's interesting that Balder plays a part in this. So there's two things there. So I don't think Thorfinn is thinking about Hild at all. He probably knows her, but when you're in that much rage, you're in that much rage. And it's Balder going in front of Floki that makes it, because it's the only humanizing moment for Floki. Floki at this point, Balder and Thorfinn have massive parallels, right? It should be kind of clear. They're both vying for Jorm's Viking. They're both blonde-haired kids. Actually, Balder looks like he'd be the son of Gudrid with his rosy cheeks, and Thorfinn with Thorfinn's blonde hair. But that's a side point. And so there are parallels there. And the parallel is that Thorfinn sees Balder jump in front of his father figure, right? And Thorfinn is then reminded that, hey, if I kill right now, I am becoming the Askeladd towards Balder here. I am perpetuating the cycle that I did for Hild. And that's like a massive test. And I think I almost like it more that Balder is the one that snaps him out of it. You could maybe say it's inconsistent because he managed to snap himself out of it earlier, or feels no rage towards Arnie's death. This is way more personal and deep to him. Of course, he liked Arnheid, and he knew her for 3 years, right? But he wasn't nearly as emotionally connected to her. Thor's was his father, of course, but also Thorfinn lost many years of his life, and it's also like this self-hatred when it comes out in this form, and it's like, I can't believe I gave up all those years and became that nasty human being, and the reason why I became the nasty human is because of Floki, and he just wants to do any justice towards Floki, the man who is not only it's not a redeemed version, it's someone who's still evil and all this stuff, and then it's Balder falling in front of him. I commented earlier about how Thorfinn is trying to do everything by himself. Thorfinn is saying, hey, just leave it to me, I'm going to fix it all, and it turns out he can't fix it all, because he needs Balder to jump in there for him. I think that's an interesting reading. You could potentially also read it that he's stopped there, but I think that moment of pause from Balder is quite key, and he comes to himself. I think that's an interesting reading. Is it character assassination? I think there's enough plausible deniability there. I can definitely see your point without a doubt. I just think these interesting character moments and thematic points easily compensate for how interesting it is. At least that's my angle. And I think that's my angle for a lot of plot holes in Minnesota, because to me plot holes don't often diminish how I feel, and character ruining moments have to be really, really bad. I've not actually really experienced a moment where I'm like, oh my word, this character is ruined. It's more I think, oh, my perception of the character has changed, as I kind of mentioned earlier. But yeah, anyway, fascinating discussion and fascinating point. I took me so long to get here, but this is one of the reasons why I wanted to watch this video again, because I remember it making some really interesting points, and this is definitely one of them. So fair play.
And says, that was close. And I'm just thinking back to when he punched that farmhand out of anger, and from that, it got a whole dream sequence, and ended with a complete philosophy and conviction change. But when he chops off 3 fingers on a guy out of anger, he seems relieved that's all he did. I understand Floki is a different thing to the farmhand, but still, come on. Okay, so the soldiers filled up the well.
I thought you were going to make a different point where it's why didn't he have a bigger moment with Thor's there, and it's inner demon, which is interesting. But I think that's because it's not a physical reality, it's more of a trauma thing. But yeah, I think that you are also building up to this point where Thorfinn is getting more and more angry and more tired, more and more convicted, and it just kind of bubbles over at all this point. And so that maybe actually contributes to this point. Like he's just having so much pressure on him that he eventually cracks. While opposed to when he's under Askeladd's band, he's generally not under that much pressure, like because he's not trying to keep to any ideals, or he doesn't care about anybody else. You know, right? It all slides over. But because Thorfinn cares more, it then puts more pressure and stress on him. Therefore, he breaks more viciously when it does. Which is an interesting thought as well.
While thinking of another escape, Balder had the idea to take himself hostage and then leave and take him with him to a place somewhere that's not here. Anyway, next we get to the point where we get to the... You guys remember when Vinland Saga was this? And this? And this? And this? And this? And this? Well, now Vinland Saga is this. This one panel speaks for itself, so I don't really know what to say. So instead, I'll make a guttural sound. Is that even what a guttural sound is? I don't know. I don't know anything. I feel lost and afraid. Another far joke. Bravo, Yukimura. You must have been real gassed up to write that zinger.
Oh, but got him.
You guys remember Askeladd? I do. Askeladd was a great battle tactician, but he was too fucking stupid to think of a barrel blaster technique. Fuck me. Anyway.
Fair enough.
Run into Thorfinn and co, which are surrounded by hundreds of John Vikings. Thorfinn with a hostage shouts for them to open the gate. After Thorfinn gives the boy a paper cut to show Floki he ain't kidding, Floki shouts for them to open the gate. But oh my goodness, Garb is here too. So Garb shows himself and decides this is a good time to fight Thorfinn, next to the hundreds of John Vikings that want to kill them both. And Siggy decides it would be a good idea to fight him. Thorfinn blocks Siggy as Garb goes for the kill shot. Okay, then a lot happens all at once. Siggy gets hit with 4 arrows, and the John Vikings move in to get Bodir. Look at this panel. They are royally fucked, and by fucked, I mean if the John Vikings get close, they will be sliced to bits. But Thorfinn decides to run off with Garb anyway. Gudrid does this, and now get this panel. Why are the John Vikings such clown people, and how the fuck haven't Gudrid and gang died by now? Miraculous.
That's a top tier joke. I love the ladle joke.
Siggy is up from the arrow wounds and saves Gudrid by threatening Bodir. From Thorfinn's POV, they all would have just died, Gudrid obliterated, if Siggy couldn't get up from his wounds. Or just anyway, just take a step back and just realize what this situation is. They are surrounded by hundreds of John Vikings, and clearly aren't really using this kid as a hostage. The kid could have run away here. It's obvious. They also have bows and arrows. It's so insane. And Thorfinn should run in away from Garm, somehow not realizing the such ridiculous threat on his friends. Well, Thorfinn...
I also think there's a sense here that Thorfinn is running away because he doesn't want Garm to hurt his friends. Because from Thorfinn's perspective, Garm has already taken them hostage, right? So he's protecting their friends because he finds Garm more worrisome than Yum's Viking. Or well, he's got to make a split decision, right? And he's trying not to die because, he's trying to kill him. So yeah, it's interesting. I guess Thorfinn has come to his senses as well. I guess I'm not sure if Thorfinn necessarily clocks all of it. I understand this is where the point where you're like, oh my word, like the Yum's Viking are so ridiculous and all this stuff. I think, if you have issues before, then you have issues with this as well.
Thorfinn needed to do was to quickly convince Garm that he will fight him later, after everyone is safe. And if that fails, Thorfinn just needs to fight him, whether he can only win while going for a lethal blow, so fucking be it. Gudrid's life is in such ridiculous peril. Why was so much...
Stage is set. Fight me, Thorfinn. Let's fight now, if now's the time to fight.
Quicker to kill Floki out of revenge than to kill Garb out of necessity to save his friends. Even Garb knows this. Okay.
What? Sorry, let me listen to that point again. I feel like he's making a pretty strong point.
It's so...
I think it's fine to find it funny, but it's also absolutely fine to not find it funny. But we kind of brush on this.
And Thorfinn should run in away from Garm, somehow not realizing the such ridiculous threat on his friends. What Thorfinn needed to do was to quickly convince Garm that he will fight him later, after everyone is safe. And if that fails, Thorfinn just needs to fight him, whether he can only win while going for a lethal blow, so fucking be it. Gudrid's life is in such ridiculous...
Yeah, I guess Thorfinn is trying to protect Sigurd here, so that's why he has to engage, because Sigurd's being annoying. Sigurd is the irrational actor here that's caused this issue. I think that makes sense. Maybe Thorfinn could have tried to quell it afterwards, but then he's let go of a boulder by that point to try and protect Sigurd. So it's all happening in the spur of the moment. So I think it makes sense. But maybe I'm misunderstanding. But yeah.
Why was he so much quicker to kill Floki out of revenge than to kill Garb out of necessity to save his friends? Even Garb knows this. Okay, they managed to open the gate, and Siggy wants to commit suicide for no reason. Why would Thorkel's forces charge in? I can't...
Not for no reason. It's because he's dumb and he wants the thing of Valhalla, which then sets up for the next chapter.
Chapter 2 chapters later. And Fat Man, Siggy, and Gudrid get out. After Gudrid says she'll go back to Iceland with him, Siggy survives 4 arrows and getting hit unconscious, and then jumping off his hill. Dude, he's got arrows in his back. If he falls on them, won't they pierce through him? Yes, God, he should be wondering that. And it's fucking nuts how he can conceive of them being fine, to be honest. Then out of nowhere,
Also, I think the point with Garm reminding him, yapping to him, oh, you left all your friends and all this stuff, Thorfinn knows that, and that's why he hates it, but he can't circle back around to them because Garm is such a big hassle to deal with.
The chapter of a random warrior coming to the conclusion that Valhalla isn't real, and so dying in complete sadness and regret. Baldur suddenly becomes a complete edgelord out of literally nowhere. He went from his only character trait being wanting no war to wanting everything to fucking burn. Garm confronts Thorfinn and basically...
I think you could do some interesting stuff with Garm there. Baldur. I think there's more you can dig into. Well, actually, let's do that now. Baldur, I think, you know, I have to read into the nuances, but I don't think it's that much whiplash. I think it's just like everything's come to a head, and he just wants it all to burn because he hates that this is all about him, and he hates that he's at the center of it all, and he wants war to stop, and he thinks, well, maybe if I just burn it, like, he actually hates this world that it operates like this so stupidly, and maybe if he also thinks that if he kills himself, then this will all stop anyway. Like, people will stop fighting. Like, he's a 10-year-old kid as well, so yeah, you know. Kid's gonna be emotional, but I think that's interesting. You know, he's quite. One thing I didn't like about Baldur when I first, he felt like he was too smart or too knowledgeable about stuff. But that was my pet peeve with Baldur. But you know, I've gone over it and found stuff to like about him later on.
Basically says Thorfinn ain't trying and he should fight. Fighting's fun. Thorfinn throws away his knife. Wow, he's just like Thor, so cool. Except Thor did that to sacrifice his life for his son's life. Thor had already dueled with Askeladd and won. Shouldn't Thorfinn just do the same to Garb? Because Garb is someone we've already...
We got Kali. He's smart. True. No, but when Kali does it, it's great. When Baldur does it, it's cringe. Don't ask me why.
Established to be stronger than an unarmed Thorfinn. So what's Thorfinn gonna do? Well, he starts with antagonizing Garb, saying he can win without taking Garb's life, calling Garb a child, a loser, and lastly end with Garb saying, and when you lose after a boast like that, won't you be exposed as a fool, Thorfinn? Thorfinn responds, I'd be an even greater fool to use my blade on a child. Let me see what you've got, Broomhead. And Garb charges in, and lets both his arms be grabbed. I just can't get on board with Garb getting so angry at Thorfinn calling him a loser that he becomes this brain dead. But it's just like Askeladd. Askeladd's relationship with Thorfinn is a hell of a lot different. And Garb has fucking spears, not daggers. I can't buy the shit for a second. Then we get Garb's backstory, where he kills like 10 adults as a fucking 5-year-old. So unbelievable. He's killing them with a fucking spiky stick. So Garb accepts Thorfinn.
I mean, look, it is Garm. Garm, like, all these characters are unbelievable. I mean, like, yeah.
To win.
Yeah.
Thorfinn says, the next time we meet, I prefer we became friends. Which reminds me, I should reiterate that Thorfinn still has no clue what happened to his actual friends, to Gudrid. She's in the most perilous situation imaginable. There's a 99.9% chance she's chopped into pieces, and yet Thorfinn doesn't give a single fuck. So this is the
Well, he does. He's shown that he cares later, I'm pretty sure. When he's like, yeah.
last we ever see of the greatest characters in all of fiction. Garb, you will be missed. Okay, now his character loses...
Okay, so let's think. So with Garm, I mean, once again, I think you could just say that's interesting characterization of Garm. You maybe should say, like, he could get more annoyed earlier. I think he's shown to get annoyed at earlier parts, but yeah, maybe you could have foreshadowed that more. But yeah, I mean, like, look, we've been well substantiated that when you're annoyed, you get predictable, regardless if you have a spear or not. But yeah, Garb, what a guy. Best character.
Any potential interest. She says she will kill Thorfinn if he killed Garb. So Thorfinn isn't allowed to use self-defense? That doesn't seem remotely fair, and it ruins any dynamic that they've somewhat had. How does Thorfinn killing in self-defense show he hasn't changed and deserves to die? Holy shit, it's just like...
Yeah, I mean, the point with Hild is that I don't think you're meant to really take what she says. It's literally, that's more of just what she's saying. Like, she's ridiculous for a reason, and she's finding out in this moment that Thorfinn is slowly proving her assumptions wrong again and again and again and again, and it's crumbling. So then she just gets more dogmatic about her opinion, which I think is a really interesting bit. So she keeps on re-saying the same thing, but it's interesting because she is actually changing underneath it. At least that's my interpretation. You could be like, she's really, really boring. But I think it's shown enough times with panels of her in the background, with her different expressions, of her, like, being actual motive at certain points, that is the case. That's what I'd argue for.
Like
so,
The Shining. I can't believe it. It's a motherfucking reference. I know. I used to think the downfall of Vinland Saga was a tragedy, but now I realize it's a fucking comedy. Floki, out of the deepest crevice in his arsehole, produced whatever in the good Lord's name this fucker is. This fucker would be my go-to for evidence that Yukimura got a lobotomy between Farmland and this arc. Only Ymir knows how a writer can write this and then write this. Anyway, big guy Ymir tackles
Great Attack on Titan reference.
and whatever. Let's just move past it. Plow through it. Okay, I've never...
I mean, whole video on Ymir. I didn't find much. I mean, Ymir is referenced earlier with Floki saying he will feed Garm to his dogs or something, or not Garm, but some people to his dogs. I think it's chapter 133. If you want to double check me, but yeah, it is foreshadows. But yeah, now I would also say maybe you'd think he's referring to Garm, but Garm's in this scene. So, but Garm is a dog in Norse mythology. So you could be like actually talking about Garm, but Garm's in this scene, so I don't think you'd be talking about Garm in third person when muttering to himself. So we'll see. But yeah, he is foreshadowed. But it's easy to miss.
I've never seen in my life a character with so little character flip on a dime regardless. It's kind of hilarious. Baldur at first said he doesn't want any bloodshed, he just wants peace. Then out of nowhere he becomes a complete edgelord and thinks he just wants everything to burn. Then now, Baldur is running away crying. I can't take it, I can't take it. And thinks, grandfather will sacrifice anyone and everyone as long as I'm around. I can't handle this anymore.
Bro is a big bear guy. Yeah, it's the mooing and not mooing. It's the bear spirit in Vinland. There you go.
Then he
Killed
goes to kill
dream.
himself because he's out. So he flipped again. This is so fun as long as I'm around.
Bro is a big bear guy. Why? Sorry, I have this on ultra low latency, but I'm not understanding your point here. But yeah. I think okay. Someone on the border point I kind of mentioned earlier. He's a kid, and I think you could do a lot of interesting. Like there's enough here to make a coherent. I understand, but oh, why is that in Finland? I mean, I'm just joshing. But yeah, I think the bear in Finland is once again another force ghost, which is kind of meant to hint at the supernatural, but also kind of like a reincarnation of not reincarnation, but like a thing of Hild's imagination as well. So it's not actually in Finland, but yeah. Why is Ymir in there? Hey, as Will said, Ymir only knows. So yeah, but Ymir, what they go.
I can't handle this anymore. But he goes to kill himself because he's out. So he flipped again. This is so fucking hilarious. Baldur must have extreme multi-personality disorder, or this is beyond incomprehensible.
Or he's a 10-year-old child. Who knows? That's emotional about this stuff. And having like that's in the middle of war and having like a mental breakdown. Who knows? I'm not going to say I have a super coherent view of Baldur. You can make a really interesting 5-minute video about Baldur actually. Maybe I should. But yeah.
So literally 180ing a one-dimensional character's only dimension. So the fight apparently ended. Floki lost, obviously.
Or giving a character an extra dimension, not flipping it, giving an extra character. Like you can be more charitable, I think. But yeah.
Thorkel's fighting the Beast Titan still, and says Thorfinn is really difficult with
Beast Titan.
Thorfinn seemed real worried here. I just want to know the chance he thought they'd be alright, because a second ago he didn't give a shit. Anyway, so Thorfinn's told he's the new John Vikings leader. Thorfinn asks for a favor from Thorkel, and then stands in front of everyone as the leader of the John Vikings, to give 3 orders. First, he exiles Floki and Baldur, instead of executing them. Then he says Jomsborg will be abandoned, and they should dismantle weapons and free the slaves. The people ain't happy about this, but Thorkel has, I assume, a forged paper from Canute, saying he's in charge, and he decides to put Thorfinn in charge. Thorfinn's last order is to disband the John Vikings.
I don't think it's a forged thing from Canute because Thorkel was sent by Canute or something like that. Anyway.
Okay, honestly, it feels ridiculous that Thorfinn can just do this, but I guess everyone who had a good case to be leader is dead, and no one would want to go up against Thorkel. And why Thorkel is letting this happen, we'll see. So they actually just let the warriors sort everything out, and Thorfinn is surprised they are fighting. If all that sharing of gold and freeing of slaves was going to happen, Thorfinn and Thorkel would have to be the ones to manage it. So Thorkel wanted to duel Thorfinn for exchange for his help, and Gudrid punches him suspiciously near his dick and balls. And then she starts crying and says she loves Thorfinn, and that persuades Thorkel to not duel. And Siggy is here listening the whole time. Oh my god, who's going to get with Gudrid?
He's a cuck. Siggy's a cuck.
I'm so excited. I feel like a 13-year-old girl watching Twilight. Then Siggy tells Gudrid to ask Thorfinn out, and then leaves. He almost definitely does not have enough development for this to work for me, but hey, it feels okay. Then I think it's implied that Thorfinn says he loves Gudrid. So Gudrid liking Thorfinn was not very subtle, like sure, whatever. But Thorfinn loving Gudrid more than just a friend has absolutely zero build-up. But at the same time, I don't really give a single shit. So Siggy saves one of Yuva's children, and then he speaks about what happened with...
Oh, he doesn't complain. I thought I was sure that Will would complain about Thorkel. Well, maybe we'll get to it. Yeah, I would have loved to seen more Thorfinn build up for why he likes Gudrid. It's kind of just over the whole
Thorfinn kidnapping Gudrid.
The whole time skip, unfortunately. But yeah.
And such. Then Siggy returns to Halfdan's place. He's like, I failed, I'm gonna leave, I wanna be free from you, father. Then Halfdan's like, idiot, get him and tie him up. Then Siggy's girl says he's her wife now, and he's like, okay, sure, and she unties him so they can escape with Siggy's friends. Oh no, but...
Yeah, that was in character for Thorkel, yeah, I'd agree. But yeah, maybe, yeah. I feel like that's the one thing everybody complains about, like Thorkel's character being like so war-driven, and I left that point for later, but anyway, yeah, but I mean, it makes sense for Thorkel.
Halfdan start going at it with their chains. Siggy's mother is like, oh, they are only joshing. Halfdan's never been so happy. I mean, it looks like they're going to kill each other by accident, if nothing else, but sure, everything's a meme now anyways. Siggy wins, then pisses off with his friends, and now wife, and Halfdan is proud of him, and they live happily ever after. 2 years later. Yuva thinks that Halfdan is mad. The Thorfinn kidnapped Gudrid and is now raiding their village, and so she tried to shoot arrows at them. Okay, it's absolutely wild to assume this is 100% Halfdan, and if it is Halfdan, it is crazy to assume that he is raiding the village. So, okay, it's absolutely that Halfdan is mad. The Thorfinn, and they live happily ever after. 2 years later. Yuva thinks that Halfdan is mad. The Thorfinn kidnapped Gudrid and is now raiding their village, and so she tried to shoot arrows.
Oh yeah, it doesn't have the chain. Okay.
Okay, it's absolutely wild to assume this is 100%.
I was trying to see if there was a chain on the sails.
100% Halfdan, and if it is Halfdan, it is crazy to assume that he is raiding the village. So Yuva literally attempted murder, and it was on Thorfinn and a baby. Oh, but she's a woman, so it's the funniest shit I've ever seen. My bad.
I don't think it's because the woman's funny. It's because Ilva. But yeah.
So we skip 2 years. They got the gold. We much later find out that Thorfinn banged Gudrid and she's pregnant, and they get married.
Nah, that's not the case. They're not. She's not pregnant yet.
Fantastic. Okay, that's the end of this extraordinary arc. Alright, before I get into what we got in this arc, I'm going to start.
I think you skip over the cool parts of Siggy's character development there. But yeah, it's fair enough. I mean, it's kind of goofy and over the top. But the chains are kind of cool and also a weird weapon anyway. I don't know if it makes much sense to begin with, but yeah. It's cool little subtext for some of the characters. So yeah.
With what we didn't, which is the great King Canute. After becoming king, Canute went down a dark path. His dream of building a paradise here on Earth turned into, I, King Canute, have to gain absolute power to take control over this kingdom, or else this paradise can't be realized. The curse of the crown, as Swen put it, was boosting his ego and fueling his ambition to conquer all. The first, without a doubt, moral action Canute took was poisoning his brother, Heraud, to gain the other half of his kingdom, Denmark. Heraud was on only good terms with Canute, and was helping him by sending forces to conquer the rest of England. But because
Heraud. Is it Harold? Is it not Harold?
Canute had to be the one to control everything to build his paradise. He poisoned and killed his brother. This is when Canute started to speak with dead father's head, which is a sign that his mind had been corrupted. King Swen's head presents a mirror to Canute and his dead father, which he detested, but also eggs him on to continue down this path of blood. Canute was then struggling to pay for his huge army in England, and so decided to take over farms such as Kettles by means of expropriation. He says, a king is a sword. What king in the world can rule without power? So then, after essentially taking over Kettle's farm, he finally talked again with Thorfinn. King Swen, being the devil on his shoulder, is saying, you cannot find common solace. You are the lonely shepherd, and they are the pitiful sheep. You must raise them, thin the herd, sell them, harvest their skins. How can the sheep understand the duties of the shepherd? All you can do is rule, Canute. That is what's best for the sheep. Thorfinn then says, Canute, if you intend to see this man through with force, then Swen ramps up. He is dangerous. No sheep should be allowed to disobey the shepherd. Kill him. The rampage of one sheep can lead the herd astray and over a cliff. Kill him before it happens. Kill him. Then Thorfinn says, I will run. Swen vanishes, and Canute doesn't even believe it. You run, that's it, that is all. You let yourself be beaten to a pulp just so you can stand before an emperor and admonish him to his face. And it didn't work. Farewell, your majesty. Canute feels like he should be angry, but then he thinks it's absolutely hilarious and incredible. He is a beautiful man. To think such a man could be from Viking kind.
Gay?
Hey, yo.
Gay
No,
Yowie?
really. Thorfinn, who from Canute's point of view represented a lot of what a Viking was, could transform into a man such as this. Canute's whole warped image about sheep needing his guidance was shattered. This sheep paved the path on his own, despite hardships. And when Thorfinn just after proposed...
Oh, it's just like the fetid turn. The sheep chose on itself to be free. Just like the fetid turn. It all comes back together, just like the bird.
proposes his plan to build a land of peace through different means.
Actually, I missed
despite
the trick.
hardships. And when Thorfinn just after proposes
Hey, yo.
proposes his plan to build a land of peace through different means for the sake of those who cannot live in the world Canute creates, Canute realizes there's another shepherd amongst the sheep. Or really, there are no shepherds. He is the leader, the king, but can now trust his own people to help him forge his greater goal. And with this, he leaves Kettle's farm and doesn't take over any others. He takes most of his forces away in England, but it actually works in his favor, and the English support greatly increases, which I would have liked to have seen more of in detail, but we can't have everything, I guess. Okay, why the long-ass tangent? Well, I simply think Canute should have been a protagonist after Farmland. His final arc has begun, but it hasn't concluded. He managed to diverge from his path of blood and evil, and is on his way to becoming the great King Canute, building his land of paradise through better means. I just think we need to see this new Canute in action, his mission on a huge scale, versus Thorfinn's mission on a small scale. Thorfinn and Canute both being on a path to find the upper willingness of carrying out violence, and the optimal way to use it, but both coming from opposite ends of the scale. Thorfinn from not wanting to hurt anyone ever again, and Canute doing anything necessary to create his paradise. Instead, Canute's only in a couple of pages, and is implied to have started with John Viking's War. It's such a shame that we didn't see more of one of the three most interesting and important characters in the entire series. Or maybe we are lucky he didn't get character assassinated like the rest. Speaking of, I'll start with Leaf, as I don't have that much to say.
So yeah, that problem with Canute, I understand, but as I said before, Canute's a BT character, so thank goodness he's not anymore, because it just make the manga even worse. No, of course I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think Vinland Saga would be very different if it was more focused on Canute as a and maybe a much larger project. I do think it's one of those things where you could be like, yeah, it would be interesting to have like flick back almost more interchangeably between Canute and Thorfinn, but yeah, that would take a lot longer to write. I think that's mainly probably why Yukimura didn't do it. It's like, that would be cool to do, but I want to focus more on the character I agree with, even though I do think there are multiple valid views. Yukimura is more thinking like, hey, I aspire with Thorfinn, so I'm gonna go with that instead. But I understand that people who really, really like Canute would be disappointed that Canute plays less a role and kind of comes in as fan service later on. Yeah, makes sense. And I think there's one of these things is like, if you're a new reader, and then saying this like reminds me that, oh yeah, that makes sense for new readers. But as for someone who's been like monthly for like 5 or 6 years at this point, like I've become accustomed to that. Like Canute isn't really a major part of the story after Farmland, really. But yeah, it's he is referenced, later on. But yeah, not majorly. Yeah.
I thought it was weird he was seemingly keeping the fact that his brother lost the war with the natives of Vinland a secret. Another thing is, now I'm thinking back on it, him, more than anyone, with his "a woman can't be a sailor" attitude, shouldn't be letting a fucking baby on board. Where is a baby can't be a sailor attitude at? Second human being, if she counts, is Ylva. I won't go over it all again, but I just find it impressive how quickly she became so terrible in personality and writing. Helga's one comment I found very weird, so that's also some pretty efficient damage to her, considering how little screen time she had. Who's next? How about Floki and Baldia? Floki, up to now, seemed pretty smart.
He was non-existent in this arc. I think Leaf as a character could be maybe used more, yeah, and I think that's part of the lack of the Miklegard arc. You know, you get less Bug Eyes, you get less Gudrid, and you get less Leaf. You get less every character, to be honest, but Hild would have probably taken a backseat. But yeah, it's a shame. I think another issue with Baltic Sea War in its structures that it's focused so much on Thorfinn that doesn't give time for other characters to breathe. That's where we've seen kind of make a resurgence in the villain arc, which is very interesting. But yeah, I think Leaf does have some really good moments. I mentioned his moment with Hild earlier in the Hunter and the Hunted, where he has like that wisdom. So Leaf isn't just like misogynist, but he's also wise. You know, like he's not a perfect character, but he also has good moments and some bad moments, which I like. But yeah, he definitely has like a death fake out as well. I guess he gets shot. It was made against Baltic Sea War at least.
Very cautious and very ambitious. He managed to get very chummy with King Swen. I don't exactly know how high up he got in the...
Yeah, we all need it. We all need a
I guess
Constantinople
he was the
arc.
captain of the king's most powerful army. In this arc, he kept his ambition, but his intelligence, like everyone else, got flushed out for shitter. Baldia is interestingly, horrifically written. His character went from wanting peace.
I don't agree with the Baltic thing. I think, yeah, Floki was a disappointing character when I wrote it. I think he's one of my F tier characters. You know, I've gotten over like my initial like disappointment with him. Same thing with Ilva. I was disappointed with her as well. But yeah, I'd also agree you could do more. But I think it's not the worst thing that they're not used. Because you have so much good stuff later on, so I don't mind as much. Probably my personal least favorite thing about both is Ines just does nothing. Being such an amazing character in Farmland. Well, Ines stocks are rising. Yeah, I think that's another thing with Baltic Sea War Arc, as I said, it's so focused on Thorfinn that the other characters get kind of put on the back burner a lot. And so it's kind of yeah, it's not quite as efficient and tight as some people may say. And I think there are really good characters. Like I think Siri Siggy's a standout character of the arc. I think Garm's actually quite a good character. I disagree. But then you could have you could have more characters that are already introduced. I think Hild is also a good character in it as well. Just like I understand that people could misinterpret her character just because she feels like she's in the background when she's not. So it's interesting there. But yeah.
To want him war, to want him peace again, and had no other traits. So that's fun. Next, Siggy, why not? I just can't take this dude remotely seriously, because he ain't written remotely seriously. His dumbfuck friends have so little character that I wouldn't consider them characters. Siggy is a dumb, rash maniac, whose funniest thing about him, despite the amount of supposed jokes involving him, is the amount of times he should have died. His father Halfdan was okay. His way of taking over people's land is kind of interesting, I guess. And now for Mr. Shonen himself, Garb. Garb's only trait is wanting to fight someone stronger. What else can I really say about this dude? In some places he seemed decently smart, but in others really fucking stupid, so I don't really know. Okay.
I don't know, we already talked about Garm, but yeah. Yeah, I agree. Everybody is goated in this current arc, apart from Gudrid. Everybody else, I feel like I feel like one of the nitpicks you can make, like, you could have done more with Pulmug and Esquadrija. I'll be interested to see if you can do. I think Pulmug still has something left. He's more. I want a moment with Pulmug. He hasn't quite fulfilled his potential yet. Definitely gone through a lot of character stuff recently. Would be cool to see. But yeah, like. I think you could maybe also say, like, in Farmland, like, Fox doesn't have the satisfying end that you may hope that he does, particularly because he's got so much screen time early on in the Farmland. You could be like, oh, I wish there was more Fox later. He does have a good moment with the Jormsviking cutting everybody down, but, you know, it's one of those characters that definitely fades into the background. It's made more of a joke later on, despite being serious at the start. Undermined, some may say. I do think there's a couple of characters like that. Yeah, you got in the prologue arc, and I reckon Ragnar's used very well. I don't think on the top of my head if there's any other characters that maybe could have been used more screen time in previous arcs as like an example. But yeah.
Now the big man Thorkel. My highlight of him in the prologue was when he said he wished he went back with Thors back then, so he could find out what it meant to be a true warrior.
Oh yeah.
I would have loved if Thorkel asked Thorfinn about what it meant to be a true warrior, now that Thorfinn has gone through so much change. But no, he just loves fighting and war. Just a big missed opportunity there. And now for my...
Yeah, no complaints about Thorkel. Interesting. I know big ones. I think... Yeah, I think Vinhard has some interesting things to say about Thorkel there. But yeah.
My ironically favourite character in this arc, Bug Eyes. He was the only one who didn't want to bring the fucking
Bug Eyes, the
which
goat.
instantly makes him the most moral and intelligent one of the bunch. He's also the only one who actually has some funny moments, because he's motherfucking Bug Eyes, baby. My hero, my goat. Alright, now about Hild.
Good fun.
Here is a character who actually has some potential, but fuck potential. Let's just keep her as an NPC who just hides in the bushes, watching, creep. And then right at the end, we find out this whole time she wouldn't even let Thorfinn use self-defense, which is so fucking childish and stupid. Also, she never asks about Askeladd, which makes her main character trait of seeking revenge for her family devoid of all logic. Now for Gudrid. She has some...
I mean, I think I would have responded to that one, but he was a great character throughout this arc. I would definitely. Yeah, he's watched my video on Hild. Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of applies mostly. Yeah, that's an old video. But yeah, maybe.
some character in Halfdan's village. But then she just became very bland and stupid. And now she's just being relegated to Thorfinn.
Yeah, we'll see more of the natives. Sorry, I forgot about to
Wife.
talk about those.
If she died, I'd say Gudrid didn't. And now for Aina, the protagonist of a farming dog.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Good riddance. That's funny. It's almost as good as Yuki Moron. That one's total. And also Midland Saga. That's great. But good riddance. Oh, that's good.
But sure as hell not the protagonist of this arc, because he does fuck all. I actually can't think of one thing this man did, and that alone is such a shame. I love this man in Farmland. My main gripe with him.
He saves Thorfinn a bunch of times. I think he's Baltic Sea War he doesn't do as much. But I think the previous ones he's still really, really good in like the sailing east ones, like when Thorfinn's talking to him, like about big thematic stuff, about Kali. That's really important stuff that sets up, that's being paid off in this arc. It's just the Baltic Sea War chapters he's a bit non-existent.
Along with the baby for everyone except our guys. But yeah, the even bigger issue is his reaction to learning natives who Wardwivle's brother are in Vinland. He has no reaction to his plan in Arnheid's memory getting shot in the dick. And finally, the main character. Let's get the easier stuff out of the way. Like Aina, Thorfinn should have reacted more to the new knowledge about the natives. Like everyone but Bug Eyes, Thorfinn should not let a fucking baby come on board with him. Okay, Thorfinn has become a fucking moron. My picks for this would be him letting out the bird. I can't comprehend what was going through Yukimo's brain when he wrote this one. My other pick...
we already talked about how it's a metaphor for Gudrid.
...would be him going to Varn when leaving would clearly be safer for everybody. Okay, now let's talk about Thorfinn's...
For everybody? No. For Thorfinn and his crew? Yes.
...use of violence. So he was going to murder Floki for the sake of revenge, but couldn't kill Garb quickly to save his friends. This incongruence is, to me, where I would say his character...
But yeah, assume that he could kill Garm quickly. I don't think he could kill Garm quickly at all. He's trying to get him away for the fight, and then... I guess he could try and knock him out there, but like he's also trying to annoy Garm enough so that he would then fall for that trick, you could argue. But yeah, there's no way he's killing Garm quickly. I don't see that's possible. Like, Garm is stronger than a snake, and Thorfinn can incapacitate a snake. I mean, maybe Garm isn't stronger than a snake. I don't know. But actually, no, I think it's mentioned that Garm is stronger than a snake. It's faster than a snake, right?
Is assassinated and a lost cause moving forward.
Anyway.
So that's about it. I don't have much more to say. The entire plot was abysmal. The plot armor rivaling Game of Thrones Season 8. The comedy rivaling The President's Pick of Art. The greatly loved series Velma. But that's all what the plot breakdown is.
Velma?
So
I haven't heard that one in a while.
I guess I would like to end this video with why I made it. I realized it wasn't actually because this arc is so weak. Well, that's a lie. It's definitely a big part of it. But the bigger reason to why I made this video is that Vinland Saga was just too strong.
Cool. Well, there we go. Interesting point at the end where yeah, it's like the arc isn't bad. I think people just have such high expectations and love the series so much that they see it fall a couple points and then get annoyed about it. I think you need to reread the arc, also the Vinland arc, which is the final arc, a lot better to return to the norm. Yeah, this is the classic Sergeant comment. Yeah, you don't like Baltic Sea War? You should reread it. Not exactly wrong, but maybe this is more helpful. I don't know. Man, well, despite reading on 2x speed, oh, now this is a great video. Should we have a look at this one? Anyway, what should we say? Actually, let's watch this one afterwards. But I won't give any proper comments to it. But yeah, anyway, to give clarifying thoughts, Mr. Wilton. Is that like a joke? Like Wilton, like you're wilting? I'm trying to see that one. Anyway, but yeah, anyway, that is, I think, really, really, it's credit video for making something so long. We should be really proud of it. You had some good jokes in there. I do like it. I think you also managed to avoid, like, you bring up good points, but you also managed to avoid some of the pitfalls that I think, like, critics like Muller may fall into, where they just get overly nitpicky. Maybe you get overly nitpicky at some points and just kind of, but you do have some strong points in there as well. I also think you avoid really repetitive arguments. The whole, like, Thorfinn character assassination is an interesting point. You didn't bring up the Thorkel one, which is an overly brought up point. But then you also brought up the fart ones. But I generally think, like, the video was a new and refreshing critique of the Baltic Sea War and Vinland in general. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, keep on making videos, man, even if it's not about Vinland Saga. But yeah, I hope this was fun to watch, even though this is massively long. Let's go watch this one as well. Yeah, if you want any more like specific criticism on like the actual craft of the video, I mean, I think it was effective. It was plain, but it was effective. I think just turn down the gain on your mic so you're not peaking as much. But there's also a certain nostalgic quality to it, you know. You can't be like on YouTube. It's an aesthetic to have a bad mic sometimes, and it kind of works. I don't think for a wide audience, but there's something charming about it. I'm sure he'll be happy to talk to you about it. Yeah, no, just message me. I think I followed him on Twitter. Join the Vinland Saga Discord, and you can get my Discord details from there if you want to. It's the one link to the subreddit if you want to have a because it's a better chat. But yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm glad he does. He's also a fellow Brit. Got to stand our boys. All right, let's watch a Carl video.
That's like the first best character in Vinland.
Man, okay, it was so much faster already. But anyway, 4 years ago, this video, which I edited, okay, clarify, I edited this. It's got more views than any of my Vinland Saga videos, which is a sad thing to see. It's 8 minutes long. Crazy.
Saga, if you were wondering, but that should have been obvious. Arnheid, however, is the second best character in all of Vinland Saga. Her short arc-long stint is so powerful that it created the mythology around the farmland arc that exists today. Her death scene where Thorfinn delivers his father's speech to her is the best moment in Vinland Saga,
True.
the climax of Thorfinn's character arc that had been building since chapter 1. It says so much about Thorfinn and how he's growing to finally understand and accept his father's pacifistic message and give the Vinland speech again to another dying slave, as his father did before him. But this moment is only as powerful as it is because we cared about Arnheid as much as we did. She makes this scene. The farmland arc introduces nearly a brand new cast of characters, from Ketil to Omar to Thorgil to Snake, and while old faces like our protagonist Thorfinn and Knut and Lee remain relevant, it's really on the backs of these new characters, particularly two I'm yet to mention, Einar and Arnheid, that this arc stands. These two characters.
Okay, I'm going to slow this down for everybody, just because we need the music. But yeah, see you, Sergeant. Thank you for talking to the stream. Lots of good comments there.
They're immediately interconnected because Arnheid primarily functions as Einar's love interest and motivation when they are both initially introduced. Immediately upon meeting Arnheid for the first time, Einar is practically in love with her, basically because she's really pretty and really nice to him. But the basic plot device of her being Einar's love interest immediately sets audience expectations, only for her to never meet them. The heart of Arnheid's character is tragedy, and Einar and Arnheid never got together because she dies before it can happen. I swore up and down until she was in the grave that she would pull through miraculously and end up with Einar because Yukimura seemed to be teasing them together throughout the whole arc. But my presumption was all part of Yukimura's master plan. We all thought this, we all wanted this. But that's
great editing.
We don't get it.
He's the troll.
Arnheid, like Thorfinn and Einar, is a slave of Ketil, who is generally a kind slave master for the period, even promising Einar and Thorfinn their freedom if they
kind slave slave owner. Unbelievable, Carl. Get him cancelled. Get him out of here.
Treacherous part of his farm. Ketil seems to have this decorum with all of his slaves, but this is not purely out of the goodness of his heart. He also benefits greatly from this method.
True.
Ketil's flaw, as it is revealed as the arc progresses, is greed. This is pointed out to him by his father repeatedly throughout the arc. So in actuality,
I think it's also it's maybe better put as his possessiveness as well. I would say this video is a good Arnheid video for the time, but I think the conversation on Arnheid has massively gone further. I think you could somebody, maybe including myself, could make a video on like a more interesting version, like really digging into Arnheid's characters. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there.
Ketil is only nice.
It's 1 a.m. here. Fair enough. No, don't worry. Thank you for chatting a lot. Yes, it's midnight here. I should go to bed soon as well.
To his slaves, and only promises them their freedom if they do a good job, because it motivates them to work harder, and therefore as a natural consequence he makes more money. He is not benevolent. This is important and is evident in his relationship with Arnheid. Ketil under no circumstance would ever release Arnheid from her slavery, because that wouldn't serve his own selfish desires. Ketil is in love with Arnheid. And in the first big subversion regarding Arnheid's character, it is revealed about halfway through the arc that she's sleeping with him. There's a grey area here with how Arnheid feels about this. We find out later that she likes the security she gets being Ketil's lover, which factors into her want to raise a family with him in a safe environment. But her attraction to the man himself is never specified. But Ketil is very much
I think it's made clear that
Arnheid,
she doesn't really
quite
find him
pathetic
attractive.
in this scene we get of them together in bed. Arnheid in this scene just repeats exactly what Ketil wants to hear with a very blank expression on her face, even talking about herself in third person. Ketil's wife hates Arnheid and hits her constantly, not even knowing specifically that she's sleeping with her husband. This is done for characterization. She is Ketil's old, ugly, jealous wife and is a nasty, unfeeling person, which Arnheid is the opposite of in every way. Therefore, besides the obvious of Arnheid being very attractive, that's why Ketil is into Arnheid. Ketil, importantly for his characterization, is living a lie. People believe him to be a war hero, the Iron Fist Kettle. But in fact, as it is revealed in the scene between he and Arnheid in bed, he is scared of all violence and ferocity. He even calls himself a coward here. He only admits this secret to Arnheid because he believes her to understand him. He even describes her as the light in his world when he says that the world is darkness without her. This is juxtaposed by Arnheid in this scene, who seems to be doing all of this for passionless security for her and her unborn child. Because another crucial bit of characterization for Arnheid is that she is pregnant again. Arnheid had a family once before.
I think an important thing about that scene as well is that Kettle is also carrying, like, he can only tell Arnheid that because he feels secure telling her that, and his, like, you know, his masculinity won't allow, and he won't lose social standing. But that's because he owns Arnheid, and like is like she's completely beneath him, and it's like a lie that he is safe telling it. That he acts like they're on the same level, and in a way like that she's comforting to him, but he buys into the lie that she actually could tell him no, even though he's only telling her because she would only agree with him and comfort him about it. You know, it's like a fantasy in his head. It is an interesting, you know, there's a lot of complexity to that scene.
She had a son and a husband named Garda, but it ended horribly because Garda was a moron. He went off to fight for the right to some iron in their village's territory back when they were free. And while he and all the men were away on a quest for
I think it's
greed,
interesting to
their
really
village was
specify that
plundered,
Garda
his
is
son was
is
likely
dumb.
killed, while Arnheid was
being
sold
very
into
unforgiving
slavery
to
as Garda
Garda,
eventually was too.
which
Later in
is
the arc, when
not
Garda
wrong
finds his way
necessarily,
back to
yeah.
Arnheid, he terrifies her, having changed drastically since the last time they saw each other. But she still loves him and the pre-slavery memories he represents. And therefore Arnheid is left in a predicament. She wavers in the decision to either stay and raise a family with Kettle in a secure but passionless relationship, or try to escape with Garda and attempt to rekindle the loving relationship she once had. Due to the plot, she is somewhat forced to try and run away with Garda, but when that fails and Arnheid is captured and Kettle returns and is told that she tried to run away, it crushes him. This comes right after he's been ordered by Canute to hand over everything he owns or be at war with the crown. Kettle's had everything stripped from him at this point, his farm and the only person he believed that understood him, and he takes out this monumental frustration by beating Arnheid to near death, giving her injuries that would eventually kill her. Again, core to Arneid's character is tragedy, and this all makes her incredibly sympathetic. She continually tries to make the best
Not to some people who still think that Kettle did nothing wrong.
out of terrible situation
The argument has a bit more nuance to it. I don't want to be completely dismissive to people who are like, Kettle did nothing wrong. But if you're unironically being like, it's Arnie's fault that Kettle hit her, that's an awful take, I would say. Very, very bad take. And a great misunderstanding. And there needs to be more thought put into that, for sure.
a terrible situation, while remaining a kind and loving human being, only to be continually beat down by the horrific circumstances of the world around her. In life, there was no hope for Arnheid. She was incredibly unlucky, and that's why Thorfinn's Vinland speech over her dying body is the defining moment of probably the entire series. Because it gives her some hope, it delivers on the idea of hope for this dying woman stripped of everything. Thorfinn once watched his father give this exact speech and completely missed the meaning of it, because he didn't have the life experience to understand what his father's words meant. And now Leif, who always understood the weight behind this speech, is watching this kid he spent years searching for
It's also a great
finally
panel.
fulfill
Love
his
this panel.
father's legacy, as does the audience, and it's an extraordinary moment. But you couple Thorfinn completing his character arc with the
I also
weight
love
of caring
how
about the
similar
person
that is as
dying
well.
more than some random slave
Paneling.
we've known for 5 minutes, and now we, as the audience, finally understand the full breadth of what this speech means as well.
Great point.
Arnheid had no hope in her life, and here Thorfinn is in her last moments, offering her the idea of hope in Vinland. A country where there is no war or slavery or injustice, a place where Arnheid could have lived a full and happy life. And you feel this moment as you realize Arnheid and Einar aren't getting a
what an
happy
Einar
ending,
panel.
and she
What an Einar
truly
panel.
is dying. And overall, this is why founding Vinland is important. So there is never another Arnheid. This is Einar's motivation for helping Thorfinn create this country of paradise. So the tragedy of Arnheid never happens to anyone else. Thorfinn and Einar both say this exactly while they're
Man,
standing
whoever
in
edited
front of
this
the
is a
grave
godlike
they create
editor.
for her
What
on
can
a
I
cliff
say?
overlooking the sea. This handshake creates a bond between these two that survives to this day, and is a bond that the two of them never waver in. And all this is held together because
not
the
true
two of
anymore.
them and the audience cared about Arnheid and her struggle. Following the prologue, the audience wasn't ready for the next arc to be about founding Vinland. It's only through the tragedy of Arnheid and wanting it to never happen again that the audience, like Thorfinn and Einar, fully understand the need for hope to exist in this world. Because honestly, that's what Vinland means. Vinland sounds like a fairy tale land that could never exist in reality. It sounds like a false promise, but it is hopeful. It's simply the idea of a peaceful, prospering nation without war or slaves. And that's what drives our characters forward. This is all why Arnheid is the second best character in Vinland Saga.
Such a weird
This
way of
video was
titling up.
edited by our friend Jarky
Me.
Bacon, a patron of mine who offered to edit one of my videos.
Well, there we go. Me, and edited by me, and this stream is by me. Well, if anybody's still watching this, thank you so much for watching, everybody, and hope you all have a good night. If let me know if you enjoyed this or not. I think people did enjoy this. I enjoyed it as well. It is a lot of work, though. I did spend almost 3 hours doing this, so we'll see. We'll see how it feels. I'll reflect on this, but I'm a bit tired now. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'm going to end stream now, and I'll see you guys next time, whenever I decide to maybe upload next.